Return from closed session, information received, no actions taken. And the next item is Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Thompson, would you lead us?
Sure. Please stand.
Thank you, sir. Next item is adoption of the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Call the roll, please. Excuse me, sorry. Goodson, are you here?
She's taking.
Oh.
Am I here?
Here we go.
In name only?
Yeah,
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
all right. Thank you. Next item is presentations and proclamations. We have a resolution recognizing Eric Smith and the Oroville Chamber of Commerce. I'm going to ask Councilman Tracy Johnstone, as it's been proposed, let you do the honor reading for us.
Resolution recognizing Eric Smith and the Oroville Chamber of Commerce, Resolution number 9205. Whereas the City of Oroville acknowledges the invaluable contributions of dedicated individuals and organizations that play a pivotal role in enhancing the community's prosperity and well-being, and whereas Eric Smith, through his role at the Oroville Chamber of Commerce, has demonstrated exemplary leadership, unwavering commitment, and tireless efforts in serving the residents of Oroville, contributing significantly to the city's growth and development. And whereas Eric Smith's vision, dedication, and collaborative approach have positively impacted various community events, such as the Salmon Festival, 4th of July fireworks, Holiday Light Parade, or just to name a few, which showcase the diversity and richness of Oroville and contribute to the overall well-being and prosperity of the community. And whereas the Oroville Chamber of Commerce, under Eric's leadership, has been a driving force in promoting economic development, supporting local businesses, and helping to create a vibrant and sustainable local economy. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of Oroville hereby expresses its sincere gratitude and appreciation to Eric Smith for his outstanding service, leadership, and dedication through his role at the Chamber. And be it further resolved that the City Council extends its heartfelt recognition to the Oroville Chamber of Commerce for its instrumental role in promoting economic vitality, fostering community engagement, and enhancing the quality of life for residents in Oroville. Adopted and passed this second day of January 2024. All ayes.
All right.
Good job.
We appreciate you.
Actually, we need a motion in a second.
Did you get a picture?
Entertain a motion for that resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Motion seconded, all signify by please saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I have to abstain.
Okay.
so.
Roll call vote, we're done. Passed.
And I might want to thank everyone for this. This was definitely a surprise. But I really want to just point out Amber, who is my colleague, Communications Director. So she certainly, I always joke, I say she's the brains. She is certainly the brains of the operation. And in addition, all of our servants, service clubs, without their, ongoing tireless commitment to our community, many of the things that we do here just wouldn't be possible. So, they really make the job easy and light. And so I certainly appreciate, just all the tremendous volunteers that, make Oroville special. And what attracts people like myself, I'm, a transplant from the Bay Area. And so, you see something good and you say, I want to be a part of that. And so here I am, and many others, I think, likewise see the value and just the love and the community that's been developed here. And so, thank you for accepting me. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
Yeah.
Vice Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I just wanted to say something on the kind of.
Sure, please do.
I just wanted to tell you, Eric, thank you personally, for in the last year and a half, that you have deeply enriched me as a person, and to watch you in action and the integrity that you consistently display in your character and your dedication, like that proclamation just said. I can't say it any better, but this is my own way of just saying thank you. Thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for being wise counsel. Thank you for being there when I've been frustrated and talking me off the ledge. Thank you for lifting me up when I'm down. Your being here, Oroville is better because of it. So I just want to thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public communication. Do we have any cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have 2 public speaker cards for this item. We'll begin with Bill Spear and follow that with Brian Wong.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Have the verse and a prayer. The verse is out of Philippians 4, verse 8. Finally, brethren and sisterin, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are good, of good report, if there is any virtue, or if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. And I really love that verse and the direction that it gives us for our lives. And I've been witnessing, attacks on our police. And so it's easy to look at a shortcoming on anybody and tear down, but I just want to give some praise, because I've gotten to see firsthand what been going on in our police station with the municipal law enforcement and the community navigator, and how they're reaching out to the least of these. And I am so very proud of our chief and of our lieutenants and sergeants and all the officers and all of the municipal law enforcement. And so I'm going to focus the prayer this evening on our police force. Father, we sure are grateful and thankful for all that serve, for the front lines, for when things are falling apart and we call 911, who shows up, risking their lives, and they're being away from their families, and all the attacks that they receive and continue to go out anyway, and of the way that that people have been attacking the police. And we want to lift them up. We want them to know that they are appreciated and that they are needed and loved. Continue to bless our police. Continue to give them guidance and direction in this new year. Let them not grow weary in doing good. We pray your protection on every call that they go. And Lord, that you would let them see the opportunities that they have to show the good and to meditate on the good, on the victories and the breakthroughs. Bless and anoint in Jesus' name.
Thank you. Up next, we have Brian Wong.
City council members and city staff. I just came in to thank the city of Oroville for this past year, because we were faced with many issues. Coming out of the pandemic, there were lots of uncertainty in businesses dealing with many issues, break-ins that we've had early in the year, break-in into cars, which affected the downtown businesses as well as the Oroville Inn. And then also homeless issues that we didn't know what to do with. But it seems like this past year, we've got a lot of these issues more figured out than other places. Not to say that we're perfect yet, but it really helped the private sector a lot, knowing that, hey, there's peace and order and everything that we have today moving forward. So I just want to thank you for the past year and look forward to a great 2024. So thank you. And what's nice to observe is when I do come to the city council meetings that we have, the city council members with Mr. Mayor, you all of you consistently vote like 7-0. And sometimes even if it was a little different, there might be like 1 or 2 votes that dissent, but that's how, our city has been doing things. So thank you and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other comments?
That's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Next item is reports and discussions, council announcements and reports, administrative reports. Any council members offer a quick item? Councilman Riggs.
Thanks. One of my council assignments is the Downtown Business Association, and they wanted me to share their appreciation for the work that the city did specifically around the holiday season and decorating. I know that it really meant a lot to those businesses to get that extra attention and that extra care, so thank you. And then the second thing that they wanted me to share was that they are planning they're planning a meeting to plan about the upcoming events within downtown and how they can continue to promote shopping downtown and exploring our businesses downtown, and that meeting will be next week. And so at their February board meeting, they should have that approved list in order for everyone to share and be a part of. So just more exciting things with the development of downtown, and they wanted me to express their deep appreciation. That's all.
Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah, I want to mention that SBDC is now doing regular trainings here in Oroville. There's one that's going to happen tomorrow, and you can go to the Chamber's website. There's a place where you can get a link to the Butte College and to sign up for that. But they're going to be dealing with marketing and funnel marketing. We all want to be relevant. We all want to connect to the. When you shared about the downtown and the meeting, it just sparked that. But I just thought I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that these are free, available to any person in town. But of course, that's targeted to our business community in particular. But so we want to be relevant, we want to be effective, and it's great to know that the college is partnering with us as a community to help us to be, raise the bar and to be effective in business. So take advantage of the opportunity. At the corner of Huntoon and High Street, the training center, right behind the Italian kitchen. That's the location. Thank you.
Councilmember Weber's on the queue.
Yeah, thank you. So on something that the Oroville Community Development Coalition has been working on, and really with Chief Lagrone, is an event that we're going to be putting on January the 22nd. So I wanted to kind of front load it right now that it's going to be a safety training day that we're going to put on up at the convention center. And basically the gist of it is that we're going to have a Chief Lagrone, what is the name? Is that Ann Rafferty from the training place? Is that right? Yes. Okay, Ann Rafferty from the training place at Butte College is going to come out here and do a demonstration on de-escalation and processing after the fact if you run into an issue. What we found is that some of the businesses downtown have been crying out for like a training if you have an unhoused or homeless individual kind of camped out on your stoop or have done unfavorable stuff on the stoop when they in your absence. But so Chief Lagrone, along with his lieutenants, and I believe the Detective Darnell, are going to be putting on a presentation on how to do. Would you like to speak about that a little bit? Or I don't want to put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What's that? Do it on 15. Okay. 16. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, we're gonna be doing that training, and there's gonna be Mike Ramsey's gonna be there, code enforcement is gonna be there. We're gonna have the Ann Rafferty there, and plus a demonstration by Pastor Spiritu on biohazard removal as well. So I just wanted to talk about that, and then I'll talk about it more on the next council meeting as well. And then I had one other thing, but it slips my mind right now, so my apologies. So, thank you.
Any other council member reports? I'll offer that the scoreboard had a luncheon for all the members of the entities of SCORE, which is kind of getting to be a nice annual thing, and it's nice because it's about the only time of the year that Lake Oroville Public Utility, Thermalito Water and Sewer, and the city all get together at the same time, same place. And it's a very good event, and everybody gets to know each other and sometimes interview and announce new members. So thank you, Fred, for your bringing that person down there. And department heads, what do you have?
You might just have just one update on the charter. I know some folks have asked me, what's the status on that, where are we at? So I did want to let you all know the goal is to bring that before the council. The subcommittee is done, so we have all the input from the subcommittee. We're doing some cleanup work on the document. We're going to bring it to the full council in February.
Okay.
So look forward to that. That's all I have.
All right.
I don't know if anyone else.
No?
I can go.
Go ahead, Belser.
I just want to provide some numbers for December. Right now, code enforcement has 131 active cases. We closed 84 cases and opened up 79 new cases in December. Abandoned vehicle abatement, we abated 5 vehicles. During the month of December, we don't go out towing a lot of cars. This is the end of the second quarter where we examine where we're at with our monies and see where our AVA budget is. And if it's looking good, like we'll find out in January, then we continue to push forward. We had 9 stop work notices on subjects doing construction without a permit. City Works and the Clean Streets team, they abated 11 locations that had graffiti. We had 6 multifamily cases, 48 public nuisance cases.
I'd ask the council to share his report because a lot of the public doesn't realize what's being done. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing there. So you clean something up, but you didn't know beforehand what was there beforehand. So I would encourage the council members to share that. I know I share it with a number of public members because they sometimes think we're not doing anything. And all of a sudden you say, oh yeah, we're doing a lot. So I appreciate that and appreciate that report. It's very helpful. Thank you.
I just want to give a quick carpet update.
Oh, no way.
So we're meeting Thursday to start the scheduling. The carpet's on order. The City Hall carpet will be coming in soon, and we're going to start scheduling on Thursday. So I know we have to ask for everybody's patience because we're going to upset a lot of offices, and we have IT involved and the electronics and the moving of desks. So it's going to be quite an undertaking. And the council chambers carpet's not coming until the end of February. So we'll be scheduling that much later.
All right. Good news. Thank you. Please, go ahead.
A couple statistics from the police department. I just want to share with the council that the year-end annual report will be coming in January or first part of February. We'll have that completed and to you so that you can see what the year-to-year what we've done over the course of the year. But just to share with you right now, this last year, the police department handled 46,300 incidents in the city of Oroville, with total reports taken were 4,750. There was 1,363 people that were arrested over the course of the year, and there were 614 citations that were issued. The Community Navigator Program, which even though it's still in its infancy, and we are looking forward to increasing that as soon as we are able to get more bodies on board through our municipal law enforcement program. Over the course, since its inception, it's had 202 contacts, our navigator, and we have been able to, he's been able to provide services, and services have been accepted to 85 people. So that has been, for one person, that's been a tremendous amount of work, and I think that that's only going to get bigger and better as we get more people involved in the program and more municipal law out there to help us do that. We are currently hiring. We have 6 municipal law enforcement officers in background right now. We have 1 potential police officer in background. We have a individual that just began the academy today, was his first day. And then we had 2 police officers that joined the police department in December after completing their academy. So it's been slow going, and it seems like, unfortunately, we take a step forward and we take another step back, but we are making headway on that. So I just wanted to share those statistics with our council.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Public needs to hear that. Thank you. Any other department heads? Looking around. I guess we'll move next to the consent calendar. Any councilman have any items or questions on consent, or to entertain a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I second.
The motion seconded. All, please Call roll.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
All right. Next item is regular business. We'd like to move item 8 up to begin and move that to be talked about right now because we have others here for the presentation. So who has that, Patrick?
That's me. Yep, thank you. Mayor and council members, tonight, what I'm bringing in front of you is, what we've been looking at sorry, let me back up. Melton Designs is preparing the scope of work for the Hewitt Park, and we're getting close to having that out. As we were going through this a few weeks ago, we were noticing that the costs of everything are really going up, so we're looking at ways to save money. And actually, Melton came up with some pretty great ideas, and if we were to buy materials, rather than have it go through the contractor where they put their markup on it, we think that we can save somewhere between $120,000, $150,000, something like that. So we really don't know what that savings would be because it's based on the markup from the contractor, but we know that there will be markup from the contractor, so we can save a significant amount of money. The other thing is that by doing this now ahead of the time from when we're actually going to be purchasing the materials, we can lock in the price that is now or currently. And Melton had contacted all of the vendors and for the materials that we're going to be using and found that some of their prices were expiring at the end of '23. So I called the vendors and asked them if they can lock us into the '23 price if I brought it to council, and council approved that, and they all said that would be okay. So so by approving this tonight, we don't exactly know what the cost would be because, again, as I said, it's based on the contractor markup for whatever contract that we actually hire, but we know that we would be saving a significant amount of money. And then, so as part of this, I thought that it might be nice to have Melton give a little presentation Greg, I keep calling him Melton.
Yeah.
Have Greg come in and give us a little presentation about the park and what you can look forward to when we put the RFP out in just a few weeks.
Perfect. Is this on? Yeah.
Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it's good to be here. Obviously, for those who were around when this grant was written 3 years ago or so, it's getting time. We should be going out to bid this month. So we're building it here in 2024. And so we wanted to give you guys an update. Haven't seen you in a while. You did a resolution, like I said, 3 years ago on this project. I went through Parks, and then once we got the grant, it continued on through Parks again. And so it's been back in front of the people and the new leaders of your departments and everything. We had a meeting showing them that just a few weeks ago. And so that's where a lot of these ideas started to come up. And so it's a pre-purchasing process that Patrick's talking about that is, not only saves us money, but time. Time's a huge effort right now because if I was to order this stuff tomorrow, I'm 25 weeks out on play equipment, on structures, you name it, pickleball nets, you can imagine, right? So this is a real helpful process that he's asking for. It's a kind of a funding in front of the bidding that we control the price on. So that's the great part. In front of you, I have a little presentation of the park. So I'm just going to run through it. Go ahead and move on to the next slide. So this is an aerial view from pretty much right over the old bocce courts that are now basketball courts. And you can see we've minimized the amount of turf on the project. We're only adding the central field and a little area over by the pickleball courts. But it's the goal of that was to not drill a new well and spend that money on that, but to maintain the park as is and to minimize the amount of maintenance and turf, but still have a very green park. Next slide. As you move into the park, the first thing you come off the bathroom in the roundabout is Hewitt Station's spray ground. That's mine-oriented and railroad-oriented. So we took the theme of the area and ran with it. So we have real rustic shade structures, sitting areas, because once you put water, every mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and every kid in the town would want to be here. So we had to provide enough shade for all the spectators. Next slide. You can see you start at the station, and we're putting these faux railroad tracks in the concrete to run you back towards the back of the park, which is the playground area and more spectator area. So there's these truss areas that look like you're going through a trestle of some sort. So, and water falls off of those, so you're continuously getting wet. At the turn, there's a little split, and there's this little train. You can see this kid's running out through the middle of the train. You get wet in all parts of this train, so it's pretty fun. And a wheelchair can go through this train also. So inclusivity was a big part of the grant and is a big part of our plan. You see a little elevated mine shaft to the right. We had a lot of grades on site, so Wade and company have been out there doing some preliminary grading on the site and did a good job creating these different terraces, which creates quite a neat environment. So mom and dad could be sitting up on that 5-foot terrace overlooking their kids in the shade, having the barbecue. Here's a close-up of an actual train at a different park site. Just thought I'd show you a couple slots on it. If someone wanted to advertise on the train, I'm sure we could get someone to buy advertising. I'm sorry, I didn't know that was on there, but a possibility there. Here's just the kids running through different water features coming off the trusses and then into the train. We're also looking at lighting this up. So all these different lights coming out, spouts coming out of the ground, and the train itself has lights on it. So you'll be able to have evening lighting. And I know we have lights on the pickleball courts. We have lights on the fields. So this park will be operating in the evening and winter, which would keep people going, right? We know summer we have till 9 o'clock, but in the winter is when people really get antsy and we have to have kids outside enjoying themselves. So the lighting of this is going to be a real neat feature. We move back, you see the tracks run all the way into the playground. There's the shade structure in the background with murals on the wall. A wheelchair will be able to roll off that elevated playground as you come up through the site and get onto slides that are over 5 feet high, 6 feet high slides for a wheelchair is pretty exciting. Of course, the wheelchair won't go down the slide. You'll disengage, and then dad or mom will roll your chair around, pick you up, and take you back. But it gives that access to get to a 6-foot slide for someone in a wheelchair. And then the spinner, also, it's kind of like the teacup spinners if you go to the fairs and stuff like that. And if you are in a wheelchair, you're stronger than most kids in the upper body. And so they'll be able to spin that just as fast or faster than most kids their age in that spinner. They'll be able to roll their wheelchair right in that spinner. And we also have swings there and friendship swings. You see the swing on the right there where you actually face each other. You can see we have great trees on the site. I know we took some trees out that were failing on the site already, some unfortunately, but we still have a lot of trees there. And you can see that it's kind of a mine shaft theme, kind of rustic structure, corrugated roof, but a lot of shade and fun for the kids. Here's just another shot of our colors that we're using, primarily browns with some golds. And then the fall material, which is all beige now, is actually multi-different colors of greens and blues and the railroad tracks. Again, just another shot from the playground company that's doing that for us. Pickleball. Pickleball people are very excited. I get a call from Beth every week. No, not quite that much.
We all do. We all do.
She's not here. What's going on? I have to call her tonight. Yeah. So 8 new pickleball courts. The ones in blue, they're actually all going to be colored now. This was a previous where we were trying to do it in concrete without spending, but we're all going to put the acrylic treatment down like on all tennis courts. So they'll all be colored this time. The one on the left is kind of our tournament court. There's more room for spectators inside the court and more room. It's also a universally accessible pickleball court. So if we did have people in wheelchairs, they need more space to stop. So we made it larger to manage that. There shows lights on it. We're not doing that many lights. We do it with less, but it is all lit. And there is some shade structures. Also in a little different format. Again, this was late September when this was done, so things have made some adjustments. But they're really excited, and I think the whole community is excited to get this pickleball going. As we go up to the slides, we have Park Avenue with where the second train is up top. And so we have a great slope there. slope is about a 30-degree slope that we've created there to have a nice long slide. This is on the side of one of our concrete slides, and we're putting synthetic turf down so the kids will be able to slide down it, whether cardboard or not, it'll still work in a safe way.
It reminds me of a certain Mr. Ramsey in a cardboard box going down the same hill.
Oh,
Yeah, we can,
we'll have to get to the bottom of that story.
yeah, I can attest to that, but it's nice to see that. I don't recognize the park because I don't see the bare ground anymore.
Yeah, right. Next slide. So this gives you a little better idea. This is it's an 8-foot slide, 8-foot high slide about it, and this will be a concrete slide, and it's wide like that, so you can see multiple kids could come down at once, and we will have the synthetic turf on the side just like this. And so it's more free sliding, you can have more fun on it. You're not refined to a little 2.5-foot plastic module there. This concrete's made up in Reading at Universal Precast, so we're not shipping it very far. Next slide. There's another view of the slide. So pretty bulletproof slide. And then this is a picture of our other slide. So I know everybody says metal slide. Plastic or metal, it's going to be hot on a 100-degree day. We face this slide to our northeast, so we have good angles, and we've got about 15 trees being proposed to be planted next to this slide. So it's about a 18-foot elevation change when you come from the park up to Park Avenue up there, or Park Street. So we're going to have a 34-foot slide with these curves in it, and the rubber fall material will be there also, and it'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be something that is going to attract a lot of people and give them a lot of fun. So that's one of the highlights of it. There you go. The dog park. So on the other side of the park, we have a large and small dog park. Currently, we'll be planting around 15 trees around that dog park. So in time, we're going to have some good shade. There'll also be a shade structure, drinking fountains, and some obstacles for the dogs. So it's a nice treatment, and it'll be a decomposed granite material with a lot of different shrubs and things like that.
Very cool.
That's it. So some other quick little items, and I'll move on, is that the park will be completely fenced and gated. So there's 100% gates, got that question off the list. We got new signage, Hewitt Park, both at the top and the bottom. So it'll be big steel cutout letters that are 3 feet tall across Baldwin Avenue there. So it's going to be very obvious to see the park. And that rusted letter theme kind of continues through our station and railroad theme throughout the park. What else are we missing?
Councilman Goodson, you still up for,
Yes.
there's a question?
In regards to, it's going to be gated, but are we looking at 6 foot?
6-foot metal picket fence, black metal picket, or whatever color we end up with.
Excellent, but it will be 6 feet.
Yeah, and
All
so,
right.
yeah, we're actually allowing, because we have the preschool, the school, we're allowing people to come off of Baldwin into the park, and then the gate will occur at the next
Okay.
parking lot. So the front half of the park will be open all the time. And then it's cut off at the back, because we have to allow access to the school.
Or- Okay.
Right.
And emergency vehicles.
Yes.
As well. My second question was, I didn't see a barbecue area with picnic tables.
Yeah, so all those picnic structures that I talked about all have picnic tables.
And the barbecue grill element in there as well?
Well, that's a very good question. Barbecues have been looked at kind of both ways, in good and bad in this park. So at this time, Wade is still, I think, trying to make up his mind whether he wants to have barbecues out there. You can persuade him.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, my.
Wade,
Wade.
Parks and Rec.
He's our parks guy, yeah.
With the park being fenced, it's going to change things. So we're not going to have open access to late at night where a barbecue is going to sit there and look like, well, let's start a fire. Right? So I think, I don't have a problem putting barbecues in. We're seeing them in all parks that are being fenced. And it seems like they're working out fine in other communities also, as long as we have some containment at night where it isn't triggering, oh, let's cook dinner.
No,
Right.
I get you. I see there are pros and cons. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Vice
Appreciate
Mayor
it.
Smith is up.
Yeah, just a comment on that. I know that we removed from bedrock, the barbecues, because of warming fire issues. And I'm, I'm conflicted on that. My default would be to keep them in spite of, and that we just have to work harder at maintaining appropriate use.
Yep.
Because it's a public feature. I think the public deserves that opportunity. I know it's a challenge, but I think people deserve to have that opportunity to have a barbecue, right?
And with this, what we've been doing in the industry is like removable bollards. We've created removable barbecue pits. So you just put a lockable pin in the bottom. So if you want to take it out all week long and say, hey, let's put it back in on for Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Again, maintenance has to do work, but it's an option also. If we run into problems, there's there've been options for.
Yeah.
Which
that.
brings me to my original question, which is water sanitization. Because if my memory serves me correct, the sanitization requirements are the same as a public pool.
Yes, sir.
And so that's important. That's going to be an ongoing requirement by the city to ensure that proper chemistry, water chemistry is maintained. So I don't know, you're more in the building rather than the maintaining, but I'm sure, if I'm a mom or dad and I got a little one utilizing that. For an example, Riverbend Park, I thought that was a huge loss when they took the splash pad away. That was probably the most popular. Oh man, my son loved that.
Yeah.
So I think bringing that feature back to our community is tremendous. That being said, you talked about the fence, but, and this goes back to our city, are we forward thinking in terms of appropriate ordinances or to protect the park in uses other than what we're intending this for? And how we would mitigate that. I know in other cities, there's been some challenge with inappropriate use of like water features, from washing clothes to bathing and those types of things. So it's just more of for the city staff. Are we, because I think we need to be prepared for that potential, and then how would we then address that? Or have we thought about it?
Yeah,
Everyone's looking at me like deer in the
No.
headlights.
Been discussed. So there is a full recirculating system. It's going to be in a
Yes.
pump house that's in the existing bathroom in the back. So there'll be a full recirculating system and testing of the water on a regular basis. And there's brown events that occur,
Right.
water diapers that fall off or things like that where you would have to shut the water down, and there's systems that do that. So.
Right, 8 hours and the whole deal, yeah. And my other life was a CPO operator, but anyway, so I totally understand that. And then, so we're gonna use a chlorination system, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Very good. So no answer from the city staff yet. So you're looking at me. Have we thought about the potentiality of that?
I can say I have not been involved in any discussions yet on any ordinance changes to address, I think, bad behavior or inappropriate use of the park.
Yeah. And then
but
how do you even
certainly-
quantify that,
yeah.
right? What's that look like, and
So
how do we deal with it?
We can certainly look into that as we get closer to the go live.
I
date,
think
for
we
sure.
should, yeah. So that,
Councilman Weber's up for the queue.
Thank you. So you probably already answered this, and if you did, I apologize, but at the entry points where we drive in or walk in, there's going to be gates there that can be shut and locked?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. And then I'm also advocating strongly for barbecues, but I do not like the idea of removable barbecues because metal is very, very heavy, and I wouldn't want to task our maintenance folks with removing those things. I mean, if anybody picks up a small piece of iron, you'll know, super heavy and inconvenient. So I would agree with Councilmember Goodson that we need barbecues. And then to your point, Vice Mayor Smith, I was thinking that perhaps maybe there's a way that we could propose like a MLE style position, perhaps that would work for parks alone, though. Maybe, and maybe we could do that. And maybe I don't know. Maybe we could hire an MLE, or I don't know, something similar to that, but was exclusively dedicated to monitoring and making sure that the parks were good. And the last thing I want to raise is, so you asked the question, which I was very concerned with, which was fencing all around and ornamental, good fencing. But is that fencing also going to go around the trains as well to remove that ugly cyclone?
Yes, so we'll have a second fence around the trains to keep kids off climbing on the train. That'll be the metal fence also, black metal fence.
So 2 fences?
2 fences. So the trains get their own fences, and then, because once you're in the site, we don't want people climbing on the trains.
No,
So,
I understand
so two
that.
different fences, both 6 feet.
So you're proposing the existing cyclone with the, it's gone?
It's gone.
And then what, so, okay,
Yeah.
good, because that's what I was hoping to hear.
Yeah, all
because-
chain link fence is gone
Good.
except for a hidden
Awesome.
area in the upper right-hand corner.
Wonderful. I'm glad, I'm super happy to hear that. Now, the last question I have is painting the trains. Has that
Yes.
been, has that part of it?
It's come up, but it wasn't a part of the grant originally, and at this point, it's not in the project to paint the trains.
Okay.
But
Because I know, see, here's my opinion. When you drive down Park or, when you look at either one of the, especially the one on Park, it's really bad.
yeah,
And it's thoroughly in need of some rehabbing. And why put all this millions of dollars into this park, my opinion, I'm not asking you this, I'm just asking in general, but why do that and then not rehab those trains as well? So I know that there's a keen public interest in people helping.
okay.
I know there's a lot of professionals in this city that have different skill sets that we could probably leverage, and they're willing to volunteer. So I'd like to look into what that would look like. I don't know if we consider taking it all the way down to metal with some sort of sandblasting or some sort of dustless blasting technique to mitigate whatever kind of paint is on that thing. But I know that there's plenty of people in town that we could probably tap that want to volunteer for that. So I would like us to propose that we think about how to get that done, because if we equipped the citizenry in this town to do that, then we could see that get done pretty quickly. And I think at a minimal cost, comparatively speaking, with having to do stuff at a prevailing wage job because we own it, right? So I'm not necessarily telling you that, but I'm kind of proposing that to this council here, so we could consider that, because I already know that there's been, like I said, a lot of interest in getting that done, and I'm of the opinion that it just makes sense. We need to have those trains look decent. Because why do all this and then have those crusty old trains sitting there?
Point, yeah.
So, we may as well go all the way with it. So I'd like to present that to the council if we can, and staff if we could get the ball rolling. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilman Riggs has a question.
I have two. First, they're not crusty, they're patina. It's a style. Just teasing. So I've been a part of this process since the beginning and feel very connected to this park in many parts of it. One of the things I know we had previously talked about was multiple play structures for various age groups, but I'm not seeing that represented. Is that for the sake of brevity, or have those been removed for the sake of budgeting?
Yeah, no, neither. The 2 to 5 is an age group, and 5 to 12. You can separate them or you can bring them together. So what we've done is bring them together with the different slides, swings on the same structures.
Right.
And in the past, there was, we got to keep the 2 to 5 toddlers separate from Big Brother. And what happens is little brother just follows Big Brother, or a sister, big sister. And we're finding that it's better to just bring them together. So mom isn't over here watching little toddler while Junior is falling off 10-foot big slides, right?
Yeah.
So our approach to the project was let's just join them together, the swings, the slides, the spinners, all those things are now unified to where a toddler would play with both.
Okay. And
So.
I'm seeing one primary large play structure.
Correct.
Just one?
Well, then we have a whole slide complex on the
Play
hillside.
structure. And think about how much time a child or I might spend on each attraction. I'd say 5 to 10 minutes on a play structure. And then 5 to 10 minutes on some slides. I'm just trying to figure out how we could, I want another play structure.
You want more? Yeah. I think in this park especially, there's a lot of opportunity for what we call free play. So it's not always organized, orchestrated, going to go down this slide or climb this structure. So we have a lot of that, but no, you have a good point. I mean, there could be additional structures added to the project. At this time, we
little
should
far.
sit down and talk about it.
Oh, my gosh. As
No,
if
maybe
I-
not.
Well, I do appreciate the hard work that you've put into this project, and I know that your expertise has helped us so much, and so thank you. I'm really looking forward to it.
No, I think everybody's really excited about it, so.
Vice Mayor Smith again.
Yeah, just real quick, I had a thought, and I think Pat might have brought this up, as an additional play structure. Remember when you were a kid, San Francisco Zoo, the train? You could play on it.
Yep.
Why not?
Tons of parks
Is
in
there
the
a
old
way-
days, right?
Is there a way to, make that, to make it safe, to bring it up to, say ADA, whatever is required?
Right, so
And
playground
utilize that
safety,
structure?
right?
Yeah, because obviously that's paramount, whether you have to put the zone around it for the rubberized zone for, fall zone. Just a thought for an additional, man, that would be way cool, right? So,
Yeah, a lot of old trains in the past, I climbed on them, Dennis the Menace Park in Monterey and Santa
Yeah.
Cruz's Park, every train out there.
so I mean, something to look into, certainly. And that would be super popular.
Did I have you on the,
Yeah, I'm not sure why it deleted.
yeah. Councilman Thompson.
First, I do want to recognize Councilwoman Riggs for all of the hours that she put into this project. I know
Yes.
that this was something that she poured her heart into, and I heard that things were coming from it. So thank you so much for your time put into this.
absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, but also you did, so thank you. But as a parent, I just want to say, as far as the play structure goes, my boys would run around and play the same play structure for an hour, playing tag. They might do the slides a little bit, but when other kids show up, it's the running around obstacles and whatnot that kids just love to do for a very long time.
Right.
So but yeah, more structures is great, but I do like how you integrated it, because when you have a parent that has, different age brackets, they are going to be running around the same play structure, playing tag and all of that, so. Just as long as it's not too spread out, because again, as a parent, if you got 4 kids, and you want to keep an eye on them all, having a localized area really helps as a parent to have eyes on all kids and be close in case there's an accident to be able to get to them, so. I think it looks great.
Thank you.
Councilman Weber's back on the.
Yeah, thank you. One last, I got a couple things, but will the water features all work as they are pictured in the pictures? Like the train that was spraying water and all that
Yes,
stuff? Okay,
yes.
so everything
Everything
Okay.
you saw there is how it's designed.
okay, wonderful. And then, as I was just thinking, I was actually thinking, just kind of reflecting, if you allow me to go down memory lane just for a moment. In 2014, I was over serving at the Hope Center at the old location, and Pete Gibson and I, we were serving there together, and you were on the board. Are you still on the board? Yes, sir. Okay. And so then Director Larry Hayden asked me to go into that park and start cleaning it up and removing, if we'd find, graffiti. We did graffiti removal, and Pastor Spirit came in and did a bunch of tree work in there. We cleaned it up, and we would go in there. But anyway, I had to come before the first time I was ever in this room. Mayor Pittman was on council then. I don't think anybody else was on council, but I had to petition the council for permission, and Wade gave me the keys. Remember that, Wade? To the parks. And that was the beginning of Ron Belzer's City Works program through the Hope Center. That was the very beginnings. That was our first foray into how to go into the clean. And then, so anyway, there's a little history on, my heart is for this park for sure. And then I'm with you, man. I would love to see us climb on those things, because
wanna
Maria
climb
and
on
I grew up in San Jose together, and there was a park where we grew up called Vasona Park that had an old airplane. And it was like a World War II airplane, and we could crawl around on it and climb in it and play like and it was cool. So I don't know if we could get across the finish line with that, but man, that'd be fun. So thank you again.
Yep, good ideas.
Okay, I get to be on the queue here for a couple questions. One of the things we approved tonight is this new security camera system that's going to be using in a variety of places. I really see some opportunities here for the security camera, if not for the pickleball courts, but other places. The reality is, the more security cameras, the better off you are.
That's right.
And I don't know how we could do that. I know with the light poles, many of these cameras that we have, there's a fixed camera operator that doesn't necessarily need wires for internet, but they just need a power source. So that might be a possibility for the future of this discussion. The other thing, I think that now that we're going to have so many pickleball courts, and I think it's going to be a challenge for our Parks Department to actually have some kind of arrangement with those pickleball players, and, when they can reserve it, so on and so forth, some kind of management thing. I'm just saying we need to manage it so that everybody gets to enjoy the park across the board. And I'm not looking for fees or anything like that. I'm just, whatever we have for other parks should apply to this one, but I think we're going to have a bigger scope.
Yeah.
with these other facilities to play with. And I do see the pickleball as a big item because there's just, I can't believe when I go to Chico and I see my granddaughter play over there, and there's thousands of kids playing it. I didn't even know kids played pickleball, and I got educated about that. So I see that as a future, having the place in consumption. And as far as the water features go, I think the same thing applies to pools, the same requirements, a water feature pool. We just have to put those in place because this will be one of our first water features, I think, in the city, if I'm right.
Your first recirculating one.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, so, I mean, good job to all. I think it's a total different venue that we'll have in the city. And I was gonna ask, is there still gonna be an entrance off of
Yes.
the hill up on top there?
Yeah,
There's a
up on
staircase.
Park, up
Yeah,
on the
Park.
left at the staircase, there'll just be a gated entrance there
Okay,
now.
all right.
So-
That's the one that, if you ever want to ask Mr. Ramsey about his activities as
On
youth.
that staircase?
Well, the hill and the cardboard boxes, that
Yeah.
was pretty much a combination thing, so. Other than that, any more questions?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Great
thank you very much.
presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow.
You will?
Patrick, anything else on that report?
I think we do need a motion
No,
for
Mayor,
the,
yes, thank you, Brian. I was just going to say.
for the approval of the expending the dollars in
I
advance.
motion that we approve the pre-purchase agreements for Hewitt Park and the project update.
Second.
Okay, been motion and second. Any questions out in the audience? Seeing none, call the roll.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
All right, so items taken care of. Staff need any more direction on that?
We're good.
Okay.
We're good. And Mr. Mayor, I know we talked about doing the public hearings right after this item, but we actually have 5 minutes, so
Let's move on to item number 1 and start the regular business. Item number 1 is appointment of vice mayor for 2024. The council will select the vice mayor for the Oroville City Council of 2024. I would entertain anyone that has any nominations for that position from the council. Councilman Weber has the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would just entertain the nomination of keeping Vice Mayor Smith in the position for the next year. I think he's doing a fantastic job at what he's doing, so there's my personal nomination.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations from council members? No more nominations? Well, then we'll call the roll, I guess.
Get a second? We need a second.
If I was able.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second, and we'll call the roll real quick. Just. All right. So carried. Oh. Your thing isn't working all the time.
He's not replying, right?
Motion passes with
Comes
7
and
yeses.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. for
Number
your vote of
2,
confidence.
council appointment committees, commissions, and boards. Essentially, most of the committees are as was last year. Anyone that had times or conflicting times was asked by the city administrator to bring forward those times, and you can report back to that.
yeah, I didn't receive nobody specifically said they had any conflicts. I did get input from everybody. A couple folks mentioned us keeping it the same this year, and I did receive some other information on preferences, but a lot of it was frankly status quo.
Okay, and there's 2 positions that we should vote on first.
Correct. Yeah, there's 2 positions. So the arts and the citizen oversight are 2 positions that are appointed by the entire council, and the other ones are appointed by the mayor, and then the council approves those appointments. So the first ones I would recommend doing are the arts and the citizen oversight, because those are just 2, it's a different process for the entire council. And right now, currently, for the arts and the citizen oversight, the Arts Commission currently has Councilmember Goodson and Councilmember Johnstone are on that. And then for the oversight is Mayor Pittman, Councilmember Goodson, and Councilmember Weber. That's the alternate.
So I'd entertain a motion to go as presented.
For those two?
for those two positions, yeah.
A second.
Motion second. All in favor, please call roll. Or Councilman Thompson, you had a
I just want to say, and as far as the process, I appreciate the mayor and staff for giving time to listen to the council members' thoughts and concerns. So thank you, sir. I really appreciate that.
Okay,
Yes, I agree.
all right. Call roll, please.
Please,
Yeah.
forgive me for if I'm a little,
Just
these
two, these two. If we want, we can keep them together or we can separate them. It sounds
These
like
two are,
everyone's, there's
these two are a little
consensus for
different
these
because
two.
they're
Yeah.
committee appoint, or they're council committee appointments, so.
all right, thank you very much for
Mm-hmm.
clarification.
Councilman Goodson again.
Yes, as is. And Councilmember Goodson's
Oh.
trigger's not working.
We can reappoint you. Something else. Yeah. Okay, we'll take care of that. Okay.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
Okay,
Okay, so the Arts Commission and Citizens
Oversight.
Advisory remain status quo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm looking for my printout here and I can't find it.
Page 20.
Page what?
20 is 2023's version.
Thank you. There we go. Okay. We'll call for these appointments as presented on the agenda on page, what's that page again? 20 in your council packet.
So moved?
Wait,
Oh, sorry.
Yes, please.
So, Mr. Mayor, are you recommending that the status quo essentially for all of them?
Yeah, unless we have another comment.
yeah, I pressed my button, but I wanted to share that I expressed interest in serving on the Loan Advisory Committee. And so if any council member who is currently on that committee does not have the time to do that, I would
You can have my spot.
take your spot.
So carried. Let's do it. There you go. Thank you, folks.
That was fast.
So we're putting,
My other thing was that I had also expressed that in our previous, last year's council, tumultuous council appointment timeframe, we discussed Weber moving into Downtown Business Association this year. I'm happy to keep it the same, or if he would like to have that committee assignment this year, I'm happy to allow that, or if you want to keep it the same, I'm fine with that as well. But I wanted to just acknowledge, we talked about it last year, and I expressed that in my preference email, and I hold to it.
Well, I think that you're doing an excellent job as the ODBA representative, and you and I spend a lot of time down there anyway together, so I mean,
We do.
we're kind of doing it right. I mean, so I'm perfectly fine and comfortable with you staying in that position, because you're doing an excellent job,
Thank you.
okay?
Good team.
So I would, are we good for a motion now?
Amazing.
Could I make a motion?
go ahead and make the motion, and then with the amendment that Councilman Riggs and Thompson,
I believe actually, Mr. Mayor, I believe you make the,
yeah, loan advisory.
the mayor makes the
Yeah.
motion and the council.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a little different here.
Let me clarify that. We're moving Councilman Riggs to the Loan Advisory Committee and Councilman Thompson off of that.
Okay.
Other than that, as presented, it'll be up for the council to consider.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the committee assignments as proposed by the mayor, and that all committee assignments shall be for 1 year or until removed or replaced, whichever is later.
I second.
Motion second, is call roll.
Motion passes unanimously with 7 yeses.
Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is we go to the public hearings now, because we needed a 5:30 time span. And the first public hearing is, excuse me, item number 9, is that correct? And that would be Mr. Patrick. The first reading
Actually,
of the
it's-
zoning amendment,
It's number 9.
number 9, yeah.
Yeah.
8 was pre-approval.
And I'm going to switch my spot and let Connor sit here in case there's people from the public that want to speak, then he doesn't have to share the podium.
Well, this is now is a public hearing, and we're gonna bring presentation of information from our Planning Development Services Department. Now, let me read this real quick. This is, first reading of zoning amendment Z 23-02, adding section 1712-120 to the Oroville Municipal Code, establishing regulations for al fresco dining and al fresco seating, and amending the section 1712-07, parking, 1732-010, allowed uses in commercial districts, and 1734-020, allowed uses in mixed-use districts, and 12-04-03, placing produce, merchandise, et cetera, in streets and sidewalks.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Connor Musler, contract planner. It's been a while since I've been before you guys, and it's a pleasure to be here in person presenting this item to you. So it was a mouthful that was read off, but essentially this is the start of the city potentially allowing and setting regulations for al fresco dining or outdoor dining. We'll use both terms interchangeably, but we chose al fresco for a more upscale feel of things. So Kayla, next slide. So we'll just go over some backgrounds and then the different regulations that we're proposing, the sidewalk dining areas, the private property dining, al fresco seating, and then any questions that you guys have. So currently, we don't have any regulations, standards, or processes for approving al fresco dining. Basically, all of the dining areas that you see outside that exist within the city were done in their own special processing through Development Review Committee or use permits associated with those developments. So this would be setting a codified standard, outlining those basic bare minimum development standards that we'd be looking for with any outdoor dining areas. Presently, the lack of clearly outlined regulations, it can result in a wide variety of designs that we see, and the expectation is not known from the city of what we expect of applicants, and same way vice versa. So we're proposing to add a al fresco dining section to the municipal code. So this little diagram here shows basically the al fresco dining and then the different regulations. So we have al fresco sidewalk dining, and within that is the conversion of existing sidewalks and then the widening of those sidewalks. Then we have al fresco dining areas outside of the public right-of-way, so fully contained on private property, and then al fresco seating areas. So sidewalk dining, it's areas within the public right-of-way that either utilize the existing sidewalk or expand the sidewalk to accommodate the dining area. Within the ordinance, we're proposing to set those development standards to maintain an accessible path of travel and have those development standards with the sort of fencing and all those different criteria. This is only proposed to be allowed in two specific areas within the city, so within our downtown area and within the gateway site. So this outlines in red really where the sidewalk dining areas would be allowed. It's what we would really classify as our core downtown development area. Myers, Montgomery, Huntoon, from Oliver to Oak, and then Arlen Ryan Memorial Drive up to, I believe, I want to say High Street, yes. And then next slide. This is an anticipation of future development in the Gateway site. So this was added in after a planning commission meeting. This essentially would just set in the future if any development in this area, so Purple Line Urban Winery, the Gateway development proposes to convert sidewalk area, the public right-of-way to facilitate a dining area. So really, because dining areas can vary, this is an example. This is Crepeville in Chico. This is showing what we would really be looking for in the best case scenario of someone who wants to expand the sidewalk, remove those on-street parking, and facilitate an outdoor dining area. This is kind of the whole shebang. They took over a street corner, they removed 2 parking stalls, they expanded the dining area, maintained the existing street trees. So this is an example of what could potentially be proposed in downtown Oroville. This is the example as it is, developed in person. You see it fits into the historic theme of the building. Next slide. This is an example, formerly LaSalle's in downtown Chico. They expanded the sidewalk, removed some on-street parking to facilitate a dining area. This is just an example of a non-street corner site, so you can see that it can either be done on a street corner, in-line, things like that. This was a quick sketch that was done to scale. It shows about I think 120 square foot dining area, how many seats you could fit into it with maintaining a 6 foot wide sidewalk in front of it, this is kind of trying to fit into what our existing Montgomery Street frontage looks like. So that is a very wide sidewalk in that area. There are some obstacles in the way in terms of landscaping and things like that. But in general, most of our businesses there should be able to facilitate without having to increase the sidewalk area. So private property dining, these are areas that are fully contained on private property. No use of the public right-of-way is proposed. This is going to potentially be allowed citywide. So this would allow what you would see on Oro Dam and potentially South Oroville, downtown. Basically what they have at the Union is that's on private property dining. So this would be allowed in citywide, and we would set those specific development standards for this, allotting what can be used for fencing types, what can be allowed out there, things like that. So this is an example downtown with provisions right there. This is their outdoor dining area. This was done under the COVID temporary use permit that the city had done during the COVID era when we had Coyote Cantina that went in. And this is an example of a fully contained private dining spot. Next. And then this is outside-ish of our downtown area with Ethan's Eatery. You'll see they have a patio area that is fully contained on private property. The umbrellas are substantial height over the sidewalk, so it's not causing any obstructions. Kind of a somewhat of an example, on Oro Dam Olive Highway, we do have Starbucks. They do have some fencing on their outdoor area. This is kind of a quasi-example of a seating area, dining area, where they do have that clearly delineated dining spot right there with the fencing. So it kind of shows that we're trying to allow this in throughout the city. These are some examples from City of Burlingame. So in the developing of this ordinance, I kind of kept my eye out everywhere I went downtown Orange, here in Oroville, downtown Chico, Burlingame, Irvine, everywhere I went, I was looking for dining, outdoor dining, and how it was being done. And that kind of helped craft kind of hopefully the perfect ordinance for Oroville at this time. And so this is a historic downtown area. It's a very deep set lot. And they got very creative with their outdoor dining area with some landscaped garden in front and an extensive planter arrangement right there. So this just shows kind of, we're not trying to limit our businesses. We want them to get creative. This will hopefully minimize the cost of them because it'll be an administrative process through a development review committee for the approval of these. So we're trying to set the minimum standards for our businesses to comply with. They are more than welcome. We encourage them to go above and beyond, but we just want to make sure we set the minimum benchmark so we have a sense of quality development. Next slide. So after the Planning Commission meeting, we had a couple discussions, and they wanted to allow some al fresco seating areas. Essentially what this is are non-permanent improvements. This is just like what Provisions does or Mugshots. They put a table and chair out front. This is hopefully to reduce the barrier to allow some of our businesses to conduct some outdoor dining. We all love eating outside when it's nice out, or maybe when it's not 120, but we want to encourage this. So this would be non-permanent improvements. Alcohol consumption is not permitted in these areas, and a permit is not needed if they're fully contained on private property and they're complying with the code regulations. So within the code, we set those standards of X amount of seats, X amount of square footage where they can be placed and located. As long as if we could visibly see that they're complying with this and not taking up an entire parking lot with seats, then the city won't really have a reason to go after these individuals. If they're proposing within our downtown area, like Mugshots and Provisions, to just have a couple of tables and chairs on the sidewalk, the regulations within code are proposing to maintain a minimum frontage width of 6 feet, so that way pedestrian access can still be provided, but those tables and chairs be brought in outside of operating hours when they can be set up and things like that. The Planning Commission is recommending that a $0 permit fee be applied for an alfresco seating area, and that would be an administrative process. Part of the reasoning for the $0 fee was we don't want to create a barrier to entry for our businesses. The commission did express some concerns that our restaurant businesses operate on such low margins, so we don't want to add an extra cost. And so they're recommending a $0 permit fee. So the reason why alcohol cannot be served in an alfresco seating area is the state Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control will not allow it. It requires seating areas that are serving alcohol to be fully fenced. The fence height, design, and other those regulations are left up to the local jurisdiction. So that would just comply with whatever we put into this ordinance. And it has to provide signage at all points of entry and exit stating that alcohol is not permitted beyond this point. If an individual wants to have an alfresco dining area that is not immediately adjacent to their business suite, so if they want to cross the sidewalk and have a sidewalk and then a dining area, The Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control has some stipulations that state a staff member is the only individual allowed to carry a beverage to and from the alfresco dining area in the restaurant, and a staff member must be present at all times in that dining area. So that does add some costs on our business owners, but that is a state requirement through ABC. Some examples of seating areas. This is just a very basic one that you see over at Panda Express. They just threw some tables and chairs and umbrellas out there. There's no fencing, there's no separation. And then this is within our downtown. You have mug shots right there. And then the other one is a coffee shop in Burlingame. It just shows they kind of have a little canopy area and they're using the sidewalk. Those tables and chairs are brought inside. They're non-permanent improvements. Happy to answer any questions. Kind of just wanted to run this through really quick so you guys can get a sense of what we're proposing, and if there's anything else.
Council have any questions? Public have any questions? Any comment cards?
None received.
None received. Looking around the room for any comments. Don't see any.
I make a motion.
I second.
Mr. Belton?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I design these things in a lot of communities. I love bringing people to the streets and really activating, and I think it showed some great examples of projects and from a designer standpoint.
All right. Councilman Weber has,
Yes, thank you. I strongly, I'm strongly for this. I actually came to the Planning Commission meeting regarding this. Brian Wong and I both attended, and Brian gave some input, and I think the Planning Commission did a great job. I think you did a great job with this, and I'm strongly for this because I think this is going to greatly enhance our downtown experience, if you will. So, in fact, I want to see more of this. You know, let's look for more enhancements. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
I like it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, that's it.
Thank you. There you go. All right, any other comments? And then I guess we'll close the public hearing. And do we
With the
need a motion?
Yeah.
to-
Yes, we got a motion in a second. I'll go ahead and open the vote now.
Okay.
I move that we waive did you already get a motion?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right,
And then I
great.
second it.
Thank you.
Want to waive?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
And passes unanimously with 7 yeses.
All right. Thank you, staff. Good job. Not an easy topic, but.
Thank you.
All right. All right, now we'll close that hearing. We'll open a second public hearing for, let's see, what is it, 5:46? On the first reading of zoning amendment ZC 23-03, amending section 171260 tree preservation, section 171265 oak tree mitigation, and section 1748070 tree removal permits of the Oroville Municipal Code, OMC. Patrick, or?
This is me again.
You again, all right.
This is me again.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this one, it is a little bit of a big one. Essentially, we are touching 3 sections of our municipal code pertaining to tree preservation. So the biggest change that we're dealing with here is really focusing on oak tree mitigation. That was one of the bigger changes that we're focusing on. The rest of the ordinance, the other code sections, primarily are focusing on cleanup and some housekeeping changes there. So Kayla, next slide. So we'll go over some of the history, the mitigation, tree preservation, and removal permits, and just go over any questions that you guys have at the end. So how we got here, the city adopted our 2030 general plan on June 2nd, 2009. This general plan establishes the goals, policies, and actions that guide the development, growth, and vision of the city. And the general plan is implemented primarily through our regulations and standards in our municipal code. Consistency between our general plan and the city's zoning code is required by state law. However, in 2009, when we adopted our general plan, that resulted in inconsistencies between our general plan and zoning code. So in 2011 and 12, the city council applied for a Prop 84 grant to make the corrections necessary to gain consistency. Prop 84 provided funding for projects that would foster the development of sustainable communities. So this really focused in on helping the environment and lower income individuals who may have impact from a negative environment. Next slide. So this sustainable code update was far reaching. It implemented quite a few changes and documents that are still in use with the city today. So our design guidelines, balanced mode circulation, created our climate action plan, new elements of the general plan. We saw the mixed use zoning come into play. We saw the creation of our foothill overlay, crime prevention through environmental design, and our oak tree loss mitigation ordinance was also done at this time, among some other changes. So this kind of goes into the sequence of it, but essentially the sustainability code updates were developed between 2012 and 2015. A climate action plan, as previously mentioned, was included in that, and that climate action plan directed the creation of our oak tree ordinance that we see today. So the 2015 sustainable code updates were adopted along with that climate action plan, which put forth all of these code changes that we see and what we're working with now. With our oak tree mitigation ordinance, we've had some difficulty in implementing those mitigation options. We saw that at the Village of Ready Creek subdivision when it was approved, at south of Oroville when we had the agricultural lands that were done. So we haven't had a very good implementation of our code as it is. In addition, the code was kind of half-written. We didn't have a fee within our fee schedule for a mitigation. We don't have a fee for tree removal permits. It was kind of just done, and with the staffing changes, fell on the back burner. So we're hoping to fix that with this. Within this, I'm primarily going to focus on our oak tree ordinance. So what we have is a native oak tree is any oak tree located on public or private property, and it differentiates between a single trunk or multiple trunks. And so you'll see interior live oak has an asterisk next to it. We're proposing to change that. I'll go into more details in that in a sec. In addition, applicability and size criteria are still staying the same. An exception is being proposed for the interior live oaks. That was a concern of the Planning Commission because they grow very profusely, they grow very quickly, so we're proposing to exempt that from mitigation and permits unless it meets the criteria of a heritage tree. So a heritage tree is a tree that has a trunk of 24 inches or greater at diameter breast height. Essentially what we see with that would be our larger trees. So we're looking at the more mature trees, something that was of concern when we had the PG&E come in with the Save Oroville trees. Kind of all of this was coming in as catalyst to response and prevent things like that. The mitigation options within our oak tree ordinance are proposed to stay the same as is. It's an on-site replacement as the preferred choice. If you're not able to replace the tree that you're cutting on-site, you would pay an in lieu fee. If you don't want to pay the in lieu fee, you could do off-site replacement. You could do a combination of any of the above, as long as if we're able to comply and get compliance with codes. So the in lieu fee, as mentioned, we don't currently have in our fee schedule an in lieu fee. So we're proposing to set that as part of this update. No changes are proposed to the mitigation options. On-site replacement is still the preferred mitigation option. Replacement ratios are proposed to change. Currently, the code says 2 to 1. We're proposing to drop that down as a 1-for-1. So every 1 inch of oak tree needs to be replaced by 1 inch of new oak tree. The reasoning for that is we're trying to get a no net loss on a site. All of this is done in accordance with CEQA, and CEQA is governed within our EIR for our general plan. There's a lot of different terms that were being thrown out here, but our zoning code has to comply with our general plan. If our general plan and zoning code don't comply, we have to come up with a new environmental impact report. So then we have to go with CEQA. We're trying to keep this update as simple as possible to get this ordinance moving forward without having to develop a whole new environmental impact report, change our general plan, and things like that. So the reasoning for the no net loss is CEQA puts an emphasis on the preservation of mature trees on a property. The removal of a mature tree on a property becomes an issue with CEQA, and it has a difficult time in finding a way to mitigate that. So we're trying to reduce that down as a 1-for-1 so we have a no net loss. We have the same number of inches of oak tree on a property as there were before. We are proposing an in lieu fee of $220 for every inch of oak tree that needs mitigation. This was broken out as $55 to $60 for a 15-gallon tree, average 2 crew work hours to our public works team to get to this fee, plus $10 for miscellaneous stakes and things like that. So currently, this is the only mitigation exception that we have. Mitigation is not required for the removal of trees due to poor health or because removal furthers urban forestry or land management practices that support the health and native plant communities as determined by the Director of Parks and Trees. That's it. We're proposing a multitude of different mitigation exceptions. A lot of these are within code. We'll have an application. We'll look through it. if you're cutting a tree down or proposing to cut a tree down that complies with these, you don't need to come in for a permit. You don't need to mitigate that. You don't need to give anything to the city. You're exempted through this code. Your oak tree is okay to be cut. We're exempting developed single-family lots that meet a certain criteria in zoning and size, because those are exempted through CEQA in terms of those mitigation requirements. So CEQA allows you to develop an already developed property within certain means and regulations. So we're keeping this under single-family regulation. These are just the list of the exceptions. The other ones, as I mentioned, are primarily housekeeping. We're proposing to combine tree preservation and tree removal permits under one code section because they work hand in hand together. It didn't make sense to have them in two separate sections that require individuals to jump around. So tree preservation would no longer exist. It would become reserved for use in a future ordinance. Additional changes are proposed for proper code referencing, proper director head positions. We talk about director of parks and trees. We talk about director of departments that don't exist. So we're keeping it and making it easier and simpler. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any councilmen have questions? Vice Mayor Smith?
Oh, I think.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not supposed to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a few questions. It was mentioned in the report that Chico was looked at, as well as Paradise, maybe Fremont, I think. It was different cities that were looked at. So I checked with Chico, and when you have private property, right, and I have a tree on it, and that tree is I feel that tree is a problem, there is no limit. I can, as a private property owner, remove that tree, even oak trees in Chico, which is very counterintuitive to what I read in the report and what I'm seeing here. So I'm wondering, are they subject to the same CEQA? I would think so. So how is it that they're working around that? Because I'm a very strong proponent of private property. I get the whole urban forest reducing climate change, bringing down, temperatures I think we've all seen the science on that. However, private property rights to me is a big deal. Case in point, and so you mentioned as determined by parks, somebody from the city goes out and makes a judgment call. I lived in Sacramento County, had a big oak tree hoovering over my 2-story house. This is a true story. When the wind blew, that tree made me very nervous. I wanted to, not remove it, but trim it. So the county arborist comes out, nah, I don't think so. I said, would you sleep in that bedroom during a storm? Yeah, no, you can't do any, you can't touch that tree. That's very arbitrary, and that's a lot of power that we're now investing into a city employee. I mean, we might have wonderful employees today, but I'm a little concerned about that process because I've had a very bad experience personally in Sacramento County with their county arborist. Because what I feel is safe, maybe they don't, for an example. So when it comes to personal property rights, trees that are growing on my property, I like Chico's ordinance much better than the one we're proposing here, which is kind of ironic because I always look at them as being a little bit more, their propensity is to be a little bit more involved, in some situations. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. And then the in lieu of fee. So in other words, if I pay the city a bunch of money, I can cut a tree down? Is that essentially what we're saying? Just cutting to the chase?
No.
Okay, so what's the in lieu of fee? So what is that?
So the in lieu fee would be done if you're not able to replace that tree on site. So if you want to cut the tree down, you would first apply for your tree removal permit. We would analyze that to confirm that you can have it removed. If it doesn't fall under one of the exceptions that we're proposing for an oak tree, then we would move forward with that tree removal permit, and mitigation would be required for every inch that's removed. If you're not able to replace that on site, you would pay the city the removal fee, and that would go into a fund that would be utilized to further development of oak trees within the city of Oroville. So it's essentially stating that we're still looking for you to replace that on site. If you can't do that, you're gonna have to pay that, and we'll utilize that to plant trees within our parks, our streets, things like that. So we would be utilizing that for the replacement on your behalf.
And so just for simplicity purposes, so for every inch, so what's the proposed fee?
220.
220, so for every, you ever seen an oak? Ironically, the picture of that big oak tree that you just had on there that was falling over, that's what I was doing all day yesterday with my 2 chainsaws, because it had done just that. And they, as you know, they oftentimes will rot from inside. Sometimes an arborist can't even catch what's going on with a tree. And believe you me, I did a personal property extension. I brought in 1,000 feet of PG&E, and PG&E identified 50 trees on my property that needed to be removed. And I fought for every one of them. I think, our urban forest is doing really well, and I'm just concerned about overarching arbitrary rules that make it difficult for folks to, keep their property maintained. We have a challenge in our own city when we look at all of our trees here, busting up sidewalks and, lifting asphalt and all of that. And so I don't want to have rules in place that potentially preclude people from feeling, that they can, manage that in a cost-effective way, especially when it's not a tree that, like an oak tree, for an example, that has extra, because we value those over and above other trees. So I'm just kind of like initially here, kind of drill, because I read, and it's pretty involved. I thought we were trying to simplify. It almost feels like it's more complicated, almost, in reading the proposal here. So anyway, those are my comments for the moment.
Councilman Weber?
Yeah, thank you. If you spoke to this and I missed it, please forgive me. But what about fire issue with trees, like clearance due requirements from insurance?
So that was done within our oak tree standards. We put in a wide list of exceptions. So the exceptions are you don't need to get the permit, you don't need to mitigate. This is hoping to make that easier because right now, as Councilmember Smith mentioned, it's leaving it up to the subjectivity of a department position within the city. We're listing those exceptions. I think we're proposing 8 or 10 exceptions that are clearly outlined as to when you do not need a permit. So if it is mandated by your insurance provider that you remove a tree to maintain insurance coverage, if it's as required by fire department personnel who are actively fighting fires as part of defensible space requirements, as part of fuel modification regulations, all of those are outlined within the exceptions to where you don't need to come in and get a permit. This was discussed at our planning commission as to where can we utilize those defensible space regulations from CAL FIRE, those handbooks and guidelines, and will that count as an official fire report? Yes, because that was developed in accordance with state fire code and fire law that outlines as to where and when you should have vegetation close to your house, those 5-foot, 6-foot, 10-foot clearances. So if an individual who lives within, say, Foothill Boulevard, who has 10 oak trees on their property, looks at this and states, well, I, first of all, have a lot that's 5,000 square feet. I'm zoned R1. I'm exempt. I don't need to get a permit. I could come in, I could cut trees. I also am complying with defensible space regulations through CAL FIRE. I don't need a permit for that. I'm good there. And I'm also furthering urban land management. One of those exceptions, done. You don't need a permit. You don't need to come to the city. You don't have to pay us anything. There's nothing that we're going to be looking at. That is for our oak trees within our foothill overlay because those are of concern to those individuals who live there. So we're hoping to expand on our exceptions with clearly outlined criteria as to when you don't need to come to us.
Anyone else with questions? Council, do we have any comment cards?
We do. We have one public comment card from Billy Spear.
Okay.
Please stop my time till
Just while he's passing that, I want to comment too. I noticed it was referred to the Planning Commission, which met in December, and I noticed that we barely had a quorum, so it was only 4 out of the 7 that even voted on this item to bring this to this point, I think, if I understand that correct. It would have been a better feeling had the whole Planning Commission rendered their opinion on this.
Go ahead, Mr. Spear.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, I disagree with the ordinance. Resolution does not accomplish the intent of the ordinance. It does not simplify it, but adds more conflict. I would submit to you today that the no net loss is not an issue, that our trees are growing, they're being planted by birds, by the new development. If you look at our urban forest, it has increased tremendously since I've moved here. When we're done, you can ask me about the pictures and I will expand more about it. But I disagree with it. It does not balance the ability of the property owner to maintain their properties, but puts at risk the safety of the property, the owner, the neighborhood, the whole community. The purpose of the ordinance sounds great, but does little to accomplish the unneeded goal. Oroville urban forest is already growing faster than can be maintained. Responsible managing parties of individual properties already desire to preserve oak trees. Oak trees are one of the favorite trees that people already want to preserve. It doesn't need an ordinance. This ordinance complicates the process for home property owners to maintain their properties. Private property owners already have to deal with insurance companies and fire safety requirements, water restrictions, overhead and underground utilities, without adding city interference. The city can promote preservation and planning without putting unreasonable restrictions on property owners. They should be able to manage their tree issues without any interference. Commercial and new development should all be flexible to develop with reasonable requirements. Tree permits should only be required for removal of trees on city property. Denial of a tree removal permit on private property would open the city up for liability issues. Tree reproduction is not an issue in Oroville. People plant trees, trees come up on their own. Tree maintenance is our issue. The south and east foothill trees come right down into our city. Our urban forest has grown. There is nothing to stop a fire from coming straight down into our city. We should not be hindering, complicating, and discouraging homeowners from maintaining their properties as they see fit. The picture here, you can see a picture of Oroville I took at the end of 5th Street overlooking to the east. Those are the east foothills. You can see how thick and full our urban forest is. Paradise used to look pretty thick and growing. We don't have a tree issue. Without putting the ordinance on our city residents, we would still have zero net loss for any trees that are cut.
What exactly? Thank you very much. What part are you just opposed to all of it?
Yes, I'm opposed to on private property.
Okay.
I would say new developments, they already have the tree planting requirements. A new development has to put in so many trees. I think that is sufficient for tree growth requirements for our city to meet into standards. I would say that we have the opposite of what the intent of the ordinance is saying to promote it. It's already being promoted. What needs to be done is we need to manage it. We need to manage it properly. The state of California, with their tree requirements, it sounded real good with the spotted owl, but it destroyed our industry in Oroville, and it wound up burning our state up. So instead of preserving all these trees, they all get burned up. It's counterintuitive to what they were trying to accomplish. What accomplishes our trees being healthy and growing good is proper policies not restricting people from maintaining the trees that it's on their property at their best interest. They should be able to maintain their properties as they see fit without interference from somebody else coming into and telling them. For example, this tree here, this is a City of Oroville tree, which the City of Oroville is the responsible managing party on this tree. This is right on Montgomery Street, right in front of a business. It was it is a public safety hazard. If somebody trips on that, it's the city of Oroville that's gonna be in trouble because they let it get like this for years and years and years. I counted 10, I drove up today, 10 just on Montgomery Street. If this is on private property and the city says no, just like they did on this, somebody decided that this tree's not gonna be cut down, what it's doing to maybe the foundation of the building, it's not, it is subjective. The one person to the property owner that don't want to live that can't sleep underneath the tree that need to cut down, to the person that's not cutting this tree down, it's no big deal. But to the person that has to deal with it, that owns the property, they should be able to cut trees on private property as they see fit. And again, the reason for the ordinance is not needed because our urban forest is growing already out of control. It needs maintained, not regulated.
Councilman Goodson, you have a question?
I'd like to hear from Wade Atterbury.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Wade Atterbury, Public Works Manager. I've been a certified arborist for 25 years, and I can speak to the trees and answer any questions that you may have. Oak trees and trees in general is a hot topic because we do live in an area that's been stricken by fire lately. But one thing I'd like to say is the oak trees, they live for hundreds and hundreds of years. They've been here for hundreds of years. They're going to be here for hundreds of years when we're gone, the same trees. So somebody comes in, buys property, and wants to remove them all. Tonight might be a deciding factor if that's their right or not. But again, they're going to be here a long time after we are. So that's why it's such a hot topic in the state of California to preserve the oak woodlands. There's nothing in this that says you cannot maintain your property. You cannot trim trees. You can trim trees. You don't need a permit for that. You don't need somebody to come out and consult you on trimming the trees. I feel that we've put in enough restrictions that you do not need the permit for, certain removals. So we're trying to make it easier, not harder. The 1-to-1 ratio, yes, it sounds like a lot, but we did cut that in half, and that does account for loss of oak trees and things. You plant 6 trees, you plant 12 trees, you're going to lose trees anyway, so eventually you're not going to have those same 6 trees, but we're trying to get some, make sure we do have that 1-to-1 ratio or something thereabouts. So again, the oak trees are a hot topic because of the longevity of oak trees. Majority of our street trees live 7 to 10 years, because they do get vandalized, ran over, they die, whatever. A lot of the trees and, the softwood trees live 60 to 80 years, so these trees we're talking about 500, 600-year-old trees that we don't like, so we're going to remove. I don't know if that's up to you to decide if that's okay or not on private property. Again, I'm a private property proponent, but I'm also an arborist, so I am here to speak for the trees.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, I can answer them.
We have Vice Mayor Smith, if you're done. Councilman Goodson?
Yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate your passion, certainly. You're not the Lorax, though. Speak for the trees. A little Dr. Seuss there. But within the non-native species on my private property, the ordinance has been proposed is that if it's greater than 24 inches, then it does trigger a city permit regardless of species. So I have an issue with that, just to be clear. A lot of the other pieces, not so much. At first I was reading, I thought, oh, this is good. But then, when I start seeing that encroachment into my sense of safety and well-being on my own private property, and it's a non-native species, and it's, as you often say, right tree, right fit, right place, right tree, right, and all of those elements. Well, that also goes with the species as to, as a private property owner, what I might suit my own personal needs. So I have a struggle with that part of it. And then to Connor's comment about the whole CEQA piece, I'd like to know why is it that in Chico, as a private property owner, and now not in the front, because again, you have that 5.5 foot, what do you call that, in front there, excuse me? Not the right of way. Thank you. That was the term I was looking for. And so there's obviously, because then we all enjoy, the trees and all that, it becomes more of a public domain issue. And I totally agree with that, 100%. Again, it's more of that private property issue, protecting private property rights. And I don't feel that I need to explain to the city or seek a permit to remove a tree in my backyard. For all those, and so that's my primary objection. I totally get developer coming in. We have, a beautiful set of oak trees. Certainly we need to have all of the things that I think that are here completely appropriate. It's that private property piece, in particular, non-native species. On a property I had over on Rockridge, I had a camphor tree. The thing was a beast, scary. And it probably would have met some of the other criteria because it was getting up in the lines and all of that. But again, I don't like that part. And I don't like the fact that our planning department, a lot of them weren't even here to hear this. And I'd really like to know how is it that Chico's getting around the CEQA stuff? Or if there's some wiggle room in there. Because, if I live in Chico and I have a house and I have a 4-foot tree in my backyard, I can remove that without a permit. So there's a little bit of a disc on that. So, and I'm really lasering on that issue right there. So if you can help me with that, Connor, or explain that, maybe they're wrong. I don't know. But that's the piece I'm struggling with right now, personally.
I have found City of Chico's oak tree ordinance. I don't know that they have a permit process for a tree removal on private property.
They don't.
Public property, I believe they do. Heritage trees, I believe they do.
They do.
And oak trees, they do. Now, a tree of over 24 inches, I agree with you 100%. I agree with you about staffing as the person that goes out and looks at the tree removal permit when somebody applies for one. I would never deny it because I do not want to, as a city representative, accept that responsibility of that tree. There's no such thing as a safe tree. There's just not. They're sound, structurally sound, but they're a living species and they can have defects internally that we don't know about. So why would we assume that responsibility? Future arborists for the city of Oroville, I can't speak on, but I understand where you're coming from with that. And I tend to agree with you on that part. The oak trees, again, I go back to them. Long living, we want to keep those as long as possible. It does stipulate in here that you can remove trees, even over 24 inches with the permit for property enjoyment, sunshine, things like that. So there are things in here. But, as far as the tree removal permit for something over 24 inches, I'm not, I'm not going to speak as strongly to that.
If we could expunge that piece, I'd be okay. Just that one piece right there. But maybe there's some sort of CEQA thing that Chico's not respecting. I don't know. I mean, that's where I'd have to defer to your professionalism on that.
Yeah, so Chico does have their tree preservation regulations. I pulled them up right now. Title 16.66. They do list an exception for all chapter applies to all undeveloped private property within the city, which is 10,000 square feet or greater, and all property that requires discretionary approval of a land use entitlement. So they are listing an exception for already developed properties. That's where they're getting around that. Currently, our city general plan and zoning regulations, all of these regulations are currently on the books. They're currently enforced within this, well, they're not really enforced. We're not using it. It's just on the books with the city. So we're really changing this to make it easier and listing those exceptions. Where Chico's coming in is essentially what I found, and I'm not an attorney, but I'll defer to our attorney on that, is cities have the ability to adopt a tree preservation ordinance. If they adopt the tree preservation ordinance, they are able to make it more restrictive. However, it gets more difficult if they're removing those restrictions on there, because then CEQA comes into play. So in this case, Chico adopted an ordinance that is fairly low-reaching from the beginning. It's not very far-reaching. They're more than welcome to go more restrictive on things. if they wanted to get less restrictive, CEQA comes into play. So in the case of Oroville, we adopted an ordinance in 2015 with our Climate Action Plan Sustainable Communities Grant to implement an oak tree mitigation ordinance. Our general plan calls for all properties to implement an oak tree mitigation plan, tree preservation guidelines. That is analyzed within our general plan EIR to mitigate our greenhouse gas emissions and our air quality concerns. We utilized our existing trees and potential future trees to bring our impact report down to a less than significant. If we wanted to remove those restrictions, we would then have to go back into our general plan, reanalyze those regulations, see how they're going to impact, and redo our general plan environmental impact report. So cities, Santa Cruz, San Jose, they've all adopted heritage tree ordinances. They have been sued when they have tried to make it less restrictive because the city cannot show that it falls under a CEQA exemption. So in this case, we're walking a fine line to where can we implement regulations, where can we list exceptions without having to go back into CEQA and do a whole new environmental document.
So just on, so the heritage tree mitigation, so you're using a lot of those terms there, but when it came to the other types of trees, non-native species, you used a different term, recommendation. Or so there's you know, as you know, words carry a lot of weight and nuanced. So I'm again going back to the Chico, because I like Chico's piece, and so maybe this is an attorney issue. So if we were to allow folks to remove non-native species from their private property, 10,000 square feet or less, you know, and again, it comes back to, you know, we are a economically challenged community. You know, I just think of all the different dynamics that go into just getting things done on your property. And sometimes you add additional hurdles, things don't get done. They just don't. And so can we in that language with that exception of private property, per that, you know, and what that description means, you know, single-family residence, could we then allow folks, non-native species, to mitigate that without getting a permit?
Sure.
Without the CEQA triggering and all that?
Really asking me is whether CEQA will be triggered or
Yes,
not.
yes.
I am not a CEQA expert, so it'd be irresponsible for me to tell you yes or no here on that. I know a little bit about CEQA, but we have them within your city attorney's office, but I am not one of them. So, and it's a very complicated question. We'd have to analyze their statute, what we're trying to propose, and then look at it. So we can do that. I'm happy to take it back to your regular city attorney, but here and now to be able to say that, I can't do that.
Because I think that's really important. I mean, I like the whole, I mean, pretty much it's pretty good, except for that piece. It just irks me, to be blunt. And so I think it would be worth giving it some opportunity for legal counsel to say, can we allow folks on their private property to remove non-native species without triggering a permit? I think that's not too difficult, without triggering all the extra hoopla. And then maybe we still want to go through the extra hoopla. I don't know. That's more for, you know, again, the broader discussion. But so I would like to propose that, you know, that we kind of punt this, because again, there's nothing here super important. I mean, it was Mr. Spears who has been asking for, as long as I've been on city council now, going on 5 years plus, right? Asking for us to do this. I know Connor's done a lot of work. I appreciate, you know, all the work that you've done. But I think a little bit more time might be in order, because at the end of the day, we want proper maintenance. We want people to be able to enjoy and have their personal private rights, you know, protected as much as possible. There's just a lot of dynamics here, and I think that I just object to that one piece at the end of the day. So I'd just like to get more information or have the attorney to be able to weigh in on this and kind of give us some direction, Mr. Mayor. So that's where I'm at.
I'm actually on the queue, and there's a couple questions I have. Wade, I'm glad you're up here. And if you really want to see restriction, go up to Tahoe Area Regional Planning Authority and find out. I have friends at Mix Bay, and they had a limb fall off the tree, and they had to prove that it fell off by nature. It wasn't, they didn't cut it down. So we're not even close to those kind of regulations up there. And if if anybody owns something around Tahoe, good luck. Because it's really intrusive beyond anybody's measure. The question I have is what happened in Oakland. In the early 19th century, a gentleman came in and planted a huge amount of eucalyptus trees. And those eucalyptus trees, because their canopy goes from the top all the way to the ground cover, a simple grass fire took the canopy into a crown event, and that's what was a major contributor to the Oakland Hills fire of 88, 89. The question I have, can a person come in and say, take 5 acres and plant eucalyptus trees?
There's nothing in our regulations that would prevent that.
So we don't have any rules against that particular tree. And that tree was brought here from Australia, and it was thought to be a hardwood tree that would create nice boards and everything. But the problem is above the equator, the growth rings twist instead of stay straight grain. So it became a huge disaster, but it was even more of a disaster. That was a significant reason for the 3,000 homes lost and the 26 lives lost. So I'm not proposing that we have something in there, but maybe we should have some listing of, plants and vegetation that we prefer not to have here. I don't know if Connor, if you've ever even seen anything like that, but I would certainly not like to see eucalyptus trees brought here because they do have a significant history of creating firestorms and that kind of thing. So that might be another little item to add to our list. This is a public hearing, and these are what we're meeting for. So, and then the other invasive species like the pyrophyte vegetations that happen, the juniper bushes, that's a huge contributor to a wildland fire. And people love them because they stay green year round, but when they burn with the intensity of gasoline. So, and I'm not trying to rewrite the ordinance, but those are things that we might want to throw into, or at least have as an addendum to this ordinance, so people are aware, just like I'd also like to see them. There's a comment in here from the Butte Fire Safe Council, Mr. I forgot his name. Anyway, he made some mention about having a wildland fire protection plan. It'd be nice to see him reference our weed abatement ordinance, because that's been around for decades, and that should also be an attachment to this, so people that are looking at their properties and doing a conscientious effort toward fire prevention, fuel reduction, the weed abatement ordinance should be part of that so that they're aware of it. I'm not trying to change the ordinance with our weed abatement thing, but it's something pretty significant that even the state doesn't have in place. They have a different setup. So those are suggestions I have for what we're talking about here today.
Yeah, there's nothing that I can see in there right now. We do in our development standards have a recommended tree, and shrub list for new development, but not.
It may be just we add to the tree and shrub list those trees that we prefer not to have because they do have a history of creating a fire intensity event. And there's a lot of history over the Oakland Hills fire and the eucalyptus trees in particular. And they're not a native species, and they're brought here, and certainly wouldn't want to bring something here that creates a problem for us. We do have eucalyptus trees in place. In fact, I remember the cannery planted them out there in the fields for a firewood processing or something, but that didn't work either. So, I don't really care an open fan line like that, but in the city proper, the defensible space, that tree shouldn't be included in the process. So, thank you for your time and effort. Councilman Thompson's up on the queue.
Thank you. This is definitely one topic that can be easily heated, and people have different points of view. A couple questions for you, then I have a couple comments. Are there currently, or in your, how long have you been with the city now? Quite a while, right?
Yeah, almost 24 years.
And those who've been in the city for a little while at least know about the issues with the trees being cut on Feather in front of the cemetery that kind of sparked a lot of this. Minus that event, is there a pandemic of large heritage trees being cut down within our city limits?
There's not a pandemic, no. There are some trees that are actually growing that the city and the public right of way that we are removing slowly because they were just trees planted in the wrong spots.
So I say that because minus, an event like the one that caused a huge uproar in front of the cemetery, for the most part, we like our trees. We take care of our trees. I know there's language that people use of saying like our trees, our city trees, But I personally take issue with that unless it's in publicly owned property. You know, a tree that's in the park, that's our tree. A tree that's on my property, that's my tree. I water that tree, I take care of that tree. I'm really for, you know, creating a list of, you know, we say the term heritage tree. I'm not sure how maintained that list is. You probably have a better idea if there actually is a list of quote-unquote heritage trees.
There is no current list. Some cities will require somebody to nominate a tree to become a heritage tree. There are different definitions of a heritage tree. It usually has to do with size, but it could have aesthetically pleasing characteristics of that tree. It could be unique in other ways to become a heritage tree.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I like that because in my personal opinion, that does a couple things. Number one, there is a heart to preserve a beautiful, you know, heritage tree. Part two is it's voluntarily opted in. Once that, but there's a kind of a one-sided door, I think, at how it should function. Property owner, they allow their, you know, 100-foot tall oak tree to become a heritage tree. They've now opted in to the protection for that tree. That means that a new buyer who comes in buys the property with the understanding that that tree is now protected under the heritage tree and it's their responsibility to maintain that tree. There's a whole volunteer and cooperation going on here as opposed to if I own a property, you know, my family's owned a property here, which isn't my scenario, but a family who's owned property in the city for, you know, hundreds of years, or at least 100 years, 50 years, you know, all of a sudden a tree that they possibly even planted or taken care of, you know, all of a sudden they have issues. They have to get permission to cut down a tree that literally is their tree. So as far as personal property rights, I'm on that side of the line. I'd be like, I'm protecting people's rights. On the same side, I'm absolutely in favor of us more developing the list, you know, even with little placards that could go on a tree or whatnot. They could list, you know, numbering of the trees and all that. These are the, you know, our heritage trees of the city as opposed to just overarching, you know, government control on whether or not a person can cut down their tree on their property. So that's where I stand on it. So it was the comments that Councilman Smith made. I'm in line with those.
Councilman Riggs.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith recommended that we punt this for some future changes, and I wanted to ask staff, all who have been a part of this process, if they've felt that they've had adequate time to review this policy and to recommend the best possible option that responsibly maintains our trees while also reasonably protects property rights.
We've been working on this for 5 or 6 years. We developed a committee with prior council, and so if we punt this for another month or two to get it to the, you know, the council's liking, I don't, personally, you know, as a city, just a manager, I don't have an issue with that. You'd have to, the directors in the room might want to speak to that, but myself, if that's the direction of the council to maybe redefine the heritage, you know, and do away with the 24-inch, because you could have a crepe myrtle that's 12 inches that could be 300 years old and be a heritage tree, but it's never going to get 24 inches. So if you wanted to cut that down, no permit required. But if you've got a gray pine that's grown 24 inches in 15 years, now you got to get a permit. So if it's the direction of the council that you would like to see the heritage tree defined in more specific terms and have somebody needs to nominate that tree as a heritage, if that's the, you know, I don't know that we can bring something back if that's, you know, that portion of what we're talking about tonight.
So before we dive too deep into that, the city does currently have on the books, we consider it our landmark tree. So we have basically what you talked about, Councilmember Thompson, was a landmark tree, and an individual is able to nominate a tree. That tree has to have a historic value, cultural significance, some sort of thing like that. I can't say a single tree in the city has been nominated and put on that list for a landmark tree. The heritage tree is under the separate regulations of what under CEQA is considered a old growth tree, a large tree. And as Wade had mentioned, you could look at a crepe myrtle that's old and somehow maybe if it got to 24 inches DBH, is it of any historic value, any nature with that? Cities have adopted exceptions to their tree removal permit ordinances that set basically what we're proposing for the oak tree mitigation ordinance. They've allowed exceptions for certain tree types. So eucalyptus is one of those. A lot of cities don't require permits for the removal of palm trees, eucalyptus trees, certain trees that are non-native that tend to have more invasive tendencies within the jurisdiction. Those can potentially be exempted from this ordinance. We would have to dive deeper into our general plan EIR to determine whether that would trigger what we would need to look at for an additional CEQA document. If we do an addendum to our EIR, if we do another EIR, however it may be. The difficult part of this is if we get into the aspect of changing what we define a heritage tree, that will likely open up the door for a new CEQA document, whether it's an addendum to our existing EIR. Depends, and CEQA documents have gotten very expensive. They used to be able to be done by staff, now they run for 50 to a few $100,000. So whatever we may be looking at, it can get a little difficult if we want to touch the heritage tree side of things. We can list exceptions, we can always, and this is non-attorney advice, we could always put it under an exemption and see if we get sued. So be it. And if we don't get sued, we don't get sued. But if we do get sued, we have to go back and address those regulations and find consistency through an environmental impact report. In the case of Santa Cruz, they were sued when they were amending their heritage tree ordinance, and that was done years after the fact, because then an individual came in and developers were utilizing this, and environmental group saw and stated that you made your regulations, less stringent, and you said it was CEQA exempt. It clearly is having an impact on the environment because we're now removing old growth trees. Therefore, you need a new CEQA document. Part of the difficulty with that is we can only utilize a CEQA exemption and stretch it as thin as possible before it becomes too much of a hole to poke for some attorney somewhere to sue us. So that is very bad legal advice. I am not an attorney, but if you want to go that route, if you want to try and throw some exceptions on the book, that is at the purview of the council to do.
Councilman Thompson has a question.
Thank you. There was one question I forgot to ask when I spoke before. We keep mentioning a CEQA, rules or documents. So does this clarify, the state of California, does it already have regulations in regarding tree removal?
The state of California has certain regulations for tree removal. So primarily when it comes to oak trees, they default to county jurisdictions to implement those rules.
No, and you're talking quite a bit, but.
Yeah.
So yes, the state has.
In certain circumstances.
Okay, so the state already has restrictions for cutting trees down. So I'm not sure why we can't just defer, for the most part, to what the state regulates for tree removal. But again, I am for the development. That's what I would like to see. But I am for the development of whether we call it a heritage tree or a historic tree or whatever we want to call it, because I love trees. I do have an oak tree in my backyard that's, gosh, Pastor Bill knows, is probably, 80 foot tall, or it's beautiful, and I've planted trees in my house. So there are people who own property like myself and have trees that they love, that it would be great if the city, because there are many people in our city who, like myself, love their trees, and whether it be a small, crepe myrtle, or whether it be a massive oak tree or some other beautiful local tree, for somebody to nominate, and then that becomes a voluntary process of protection that somebody who has the property, does it, somebody who buys the property understands it. But otherwise, I say we just defer to what the state already mandates. That protects us from lawsuits. We live in the state of California that already is, restrictive on everything, businesses, property owners, everything. So why don't we just defer to what the state has instead of trying to develop our own thing, and then just develop, because I think the whole heart of this is to protect our trees, right? To protect the trees, not just the whatever trees. the trees that are long, we're here for 100 years, are going to be here for another 400 years, all that. That's the whole goal. Goal is to protect those trees. So why don't we just do that? Just protect those trees and allow property owners to maintain their property rights within the state of California and the already existing state of California restrictions. And otherwise, just let this thing, not too much, put another 5 years into this.
Looks like Vice Mayor Smith is back on the.
Yeah, and then not put another 5 years. I think we need another month or some evaluation, because I think there's some questions that we're not able to answer and get clarification on. But as far as the legal trigger and where we are with that and reviewing Chico. And I just want to point out that we are Tree City USA. Those will be 43 this year or 42? 43, yeah. So, and then March 16th, is that the date for our Arbor Days, I think?
I believe it is March 16th.
Yeah, March
this year.
16th at the Convention Center, which is just a good opportunity to come and learn all about trees, heritage trees, right? Tree City USA, a lot of good educational stuff. Wade, you'll be there. And so we are, not every community has Arbor Days where we do a big celebration in our town. And so we, as I think has already been eloquently pointed out, we love our trees. But I think this is so important that we have the proper balance between private property rights and the public's right to enjoy a beautiful urban canopy. That I think we need to again get some of those things clarified. We don't, and I don't want the fear of the word lawsuit whenever that's thrown around. We just need to do that. I'm kind of getting now a little bit past that. I think doing the right thing for the folks is what's more important to me. I mean, obviously, we don't want to expose to unnecessary litigation. That would be, not responsible. But I think, again, public or private property rights is just a huge deal. And I think we can take another month and get it right. So.
Okay, Connor, do you think you have enough?
For clarification, are we okay with the oak tree side of things? We have a concern with non-native.
The non-native over 24-inch DBH, correct? That's what I was going to ask for clarity as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. And then
non-native over 24 DBH.
Hold yourselves to this later.
Now, the other question I had, just for clarity, there's a lot of areas articulated here for trees that are hazards or. So you're talking about a non-native 24-inch DBH that doesn't meet any of these. It's in the center of the yard that somebody wants to cut down. For their own
like my
personal-
massive camphor tree. That's just a pain.
that was one issue. The other issue is the legal question brought up. Sam, do you understand the legal question that he raised?
I do. I think we need to flesh it out a little bit more, but we'll need to talk with planning about that. But I understand the
Got
broad
that
strokes of it, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So I think the legal question is how if that impacts CEQA, correct? I mean, that's ultimately.
Where does secret get triggered, yeah. And then my thing is just to add those elements of dangerous trees that we don't want. I'm not gonna say we can't have them, but please list those dangerous trees. And that's more of an advisory thing, because we certainly don't want them here. And I go down that path. I think that's about all. Any other clarity? Go ahead, Chrissy, Councilman Riggs.
I think that this should have a due date by Arbor Day, whatever council meeting we have ahead of Arbor Day.
Okay. So
'Cause
we're gonna have a tree ordinance
Billy
celebration.
Spear is sick of this waiting around for 5 years. And so am I.
Okay. Thank you all, staff. Appreciate that. Any more comment cards, just to make sure? I'll close the public hearing.
Nope, none submitted.
All right. Public hearing on this is now closed at, looks like 6:44. Next item up is back to regular items number 3. The mobile, thank you, Mr. LaGrone.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. What you have before you tonight to consider is the purchase or the lease of a mobile surveillance trailer. A mobile surveillance trailer is currently being utilized at the corner of, or next to the Union in the empty parking lot that is there. It is a all self-contained trailer. It has a solar panel with a battery in it that provides electricity. It has 4 cameras, one that is a thermal imaging camera, one that is a pan tilt zoom camera, and 2 that are just regular cameras. It has flashing blue lights on it. It also has floodlights and has the ability to provide an audio warning. Originally, how this came about was that there was a significant amount of vehicle thefts that were occurring down there. A meeting was attended, and after that meeting, Mayor Pittman and Councilman Weber collaborated through Mr. Ring and myself to look at what it would be to get one of those trailers here. So we did get one of those trailers. We have been using it for the last month. It's been an effective tool down there. The thefts seem to have significantly dropped off. Arrests have been made. Suspects have been identified. It was also used to identify a suspect in a vandalism that occurred downtown. So it's been an effective piece of equipment. With that information, what we were looking at was putting it out to bid to see what would be the best options that we could get for this type of a trailer, to whether it would be to purchase it or to lease it. So on November 27th, we released a request for proposal. That was left out until December 11th. On December 11th, we received 4 separate proposals back. We evaluated those proposals. We had some follow-up phone calls with a couple of the companies last week and determined that the trailer that we believe would be the best suited to meet our needs is going to be the trailer that we have through LVT, which is Live View Technologies. It is currently down there right now, and we believe the best recommendation is to lease the trailer. One of the reasons, or a couple reasons for the lease. One is as the technology changes, they are responsible for the technology upgrade and changes. The other one is that I find particularly attractive is the fact that if there's vandalism that occurs to it, they're responsible for that, not us. So we are essentially, we're going to pay our once a month subscription fee is what they call it. They don't lease them. It's called a subscription fee. And that will cover all of those costs. So what we're proposing is to enter into a 1-year, I'm going to use the term lease, but it is a subscription fee from Live View Technologies for the trailer that exists down there in an amount not to exceed $45,000.
Any questions, council?
Is that the monthly subscription approximately $400?
No, the monthly subscription.
You have several numbers here. I'm just trying to identify which one it is for the year and for monthly.
Yeah, the year and the monthly, you have the grid probably that was included for the evaluation of the trailers. The difference are the companies that have proposed. There is a monthly lease, which is an all-encompassing cost. There is no other subscription fee on top of that. The subscription fee is rolled back into I believe they're $31.45 a month.
Yep.
That includes if we purchased it, it would be, I believe, $58,000 to purchase it, and then we'd pay $1,250 a month for the subscription. But being that we're leasing it, it's $31.45 per month. That includes the $1,250 monthly subscription for the maintenance, upkeep, and care of the equipment.
Councilman Weber has a question.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much. I'm super pleased with the report from you, Chief, on the calls to service once that thing got in place. I know that when Mayor Pittman and myself and Brian Regan, I believe it was Lieutenant Kiwi was there? Was it Lieutenant Kiwi, I think?
I believe so.
We all went to that meeting from some concerned individuals that were having a high break-in rate down there and even theft, that when I proposed this, everybody kind of jumped on board really quickly. And so as a result, we've seen this thing in action over the last 6 or 7 weeks or however long it's been, and it's done a phenomenal job. I think this is going to add incredible enhanced capabilities to your department. And the other question I had is, were we also looking into some stationary units that would be, I know we had talked about that. And is that going to be a further discussion, or are we discussing that tonight?
Potentially, that could be a further discussion down the road. Right now, we're evaluating the entire surveillance system of the city, and those cameras will be included to the individual that is doing that. This is a price that's been provided for these types of cameras. The issue that we ran into is they are quite pricey. I don't think you'll get as much bang for your buck from those as you would if you were to buy your own other cameras. The mobility of this particular piece of equipment is what makes it so attractive, because it can not only be used for what we're using it for now. When there's large events and things like that, it can be stationed in certain areas where you're capturing the crowds as they move and things like that. If a person is missing, it can be utilized for that type of thing to surveil the area.
And then, thank you for that. And then my other question is, if we wanted to expand, if we had the appetite or the desire to do so, if we expanded how many trailers we have, I mean, do they offer, I don't know, is there a discounted rate or something for multiple trailers if we were to go into a deal with them so we can have them, because honestly, frankly, if I'm gonna be honest with you, my fear is we move the trailer and then that becomes a hot spot again quickly. Or I don't know how we could,
and
try to mitigate that.
And that's where maybe some of the individual cameras might make sense. It might make sense to have some of these very, very high-end cameras. The problem is, as Chief Legron said, they're expensive. If you get more than 10 or more of them, they're about $15,000 each. But then there's still the monthly $1,250 subscription. So that's where the cost comes in. But there might be, again, as was mentioned, there might be some spots where it makes sense to have a couple of these deployed that are permanently mounted, because we all know if that trailer disappears, what could happen down there.
Sure. Yeah, because go ahead.
I can say it makes good sense for the council to accept the bids tonight. It doesn't mean we're going to be purchasing anything. You're just accepting the bids, so that as they do the evaluation of the entire city surveillance, if this is the best option, then they can plug that right in. It's already been bid. It is ready to go.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Next on the queue is Vice Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, this has been a controversial topic nationally, when it comes to personal rights, right to privacy. But, typically I think in public space, we should not have an expectation of privacy, and that goes back to like filming, the media, you can't take my picture while you're in a public space. And so there's a certain, I think, resolute that we come to that when I'm in a public space, like pictures or other types of things happen. However, I think there is this growing concern of the Big Brother dynamic, right? The Orwellian 1984. Everyone should read it. But for us in our town and its deployment or use, from your perspective, two main things: prevention and crime solving. And I think to Councilman Weber's point, criminals will quickly learn, that something's deployed and then just work around it until it's removed. Or are they that smart? You might have a comment on that. And then so that comes back to the solving. I mean, how much, going back to the cameras, the flock system. I mean, when we solve a couple of crimes, or usually it's just a couple of bad operators going around and stealing catalytic converters. And so the solving some of those crimes and pulling those folks or eliminating that is, a huge upside. And so what's that worth? What's the value of that? But so I guess just your opinion on prevention versus crime solving, or, kind of just maybe a little bit more conversation to that.
Those that are determined to commit a crime are going to commit a crime. I mean, this isn't going to stop them. What this is for is to deter those that are thinking they might. Or think it might be a good idea. I mean, a lot of the thefts that occurred recently over cars was due to a video that was on YouTube that was called the Kia Car Challenge. And so there were young people that thought this was a good idea. This type of a thing is a preventative measure to keep them from taking those next steps, because even though they think it's a good idea, when they see the light flashing and and it giving an audio warning that, hey, you're on film, it's being transmitted to the police department, that will stop most people. But those that are committed to committing the crime are going to commit the crime. What this will do for us in those instances will provide us with good evidence so that we can pursue those that have committed those crimes. Now, we may not be able to readily identify them the next day or anything like that, but eventually we will. And when we do, that will be very good photographic evidence that you are the one that was responsible for committing these types of crimes. So it does it both as a preventative, and it also is an excellent tool for collecting evidence. As far as violating your privacy, it's no different than anybody watching you or looking at you or seeing you when you're in a public space. This is not going to be deployed in an area to violate, we're we're not looking into people's backyards. We're not trying to look into the windows of their homes. We're just trying to focus on public spaces, and we'll be very cognizant of that because, I do respect people's, privacy.
And there's a lot of specificities you can set, which triggers the camera to even alert law enforcement when something happens. So there's a lot of configurations involved.
And that's one of the things is you can set it to a particular zone, and when someone enters that zone, it can give a warning, lights can come on, and then it could also transmit back to the police department that there has been somebody's in that area for more than a certain amount of time, which will then allow the dispatcher to open up the system, which is basically just going to the website, opening it, looking and seeing what's going on there. I mean, it could be, we've had some instances of this where it's been a cat walking through the area. I mean, so that actually saved you time and effort and increased the efficiency of the department because we're not sending police officers to chase around a cat. So, it does help with that, but it's also going to be very helpful when you see somebody who is lingering, who appears to be tampering with vehicles, to get police down there and to reprioritize that call so that, another call that might be considered what it's cold will be pushed back in front, behind this call that has a higher priority because it does appear someone is tampering with private property.
And I'm up on the queue. My comment and observation is that it's truly technology has really ramped up in the conversation with this particular company, and I talked to 3 of the other companies, and this is something that is tools being used up and down the state of California. We're not the first city by any means, but to me, the technology being applied to improve the overall safety and give your department the tools to overcome these situations, I think is a huge benefit to this city. And the technology alone, especially standalone by itself, you don't need a wire, you don't need a Wi-Fi connection, you don't need anything. It's just, you can take that trailer anywhere you want and set it up, and it has other flexibilities to even the potential of having an event on the levee and it serving, the speaker serving as a greeting message was something I never thought about, but as you walk up, you're being greeted by this pole on a mast, which I'm not trying to give it a live name or anything, but I think the future holds that these are things that every city's going to have in place, and I certainly appreciate this particular bid. I give credit to the company because they did offer it to us for free for a trial basis for a period of time, and that was after we created the urgency need because we had a population downtown that was having crimes that weren't reported, and those were gas thefts. And we asked a large amount, and they all said, yeah, every one of our cars been, and you don't report a gas theft. If your gas is gone, it's not valuable enough to make a report. But that was a huge factor. I was shocked by how many people said their gas has been stolen. So that is another thing of whenever a burglary occurs, you're personally insulted because your property rights have kind of gone to hell. And I appreciate this device. I certainly support this idea, and I look for the future to hold maybe more surveillance issues around our other assets of the city, the museums, other places. And then the other potential I want to just think about at this point, it'd be nice to be able to offer a piggyback ability to some of our other public agencies that are here in the community, say the county with the Veterans Park or the school system, and then even possibility to private enterprise to piggyback this particular company's system so that, they all articulate together and instead of having 6. I just look to that as a future. I'm not asking for it tonight. I do appreciate the fact you guys went out to bid and you went through all the effort to get it there. And we do have a successful bidder, and I congratulate you on that. That's well worth the time and effort. But I just say to the public, this is the way we're going to have to go, folks. This is a necessity. The other thing is I talked to one security company. These cameras don't ask for sick leave. They don't ask for vacation. They don't need working benefits. They're there 24/7. And just to be frank, that's a good deal in this process. So I applaud this council for supporting this idea. And Councilman Weber, certainly you're appreciated with the open the discussion. I think it was actually your idea that we ought to get one of these cameras. So it was just a matter of following up. So just more of a comment. And Councilman Johnstone's next.
Thank you. I am extremely excited about this. My question to you is, I know, and maybe it had already been addressed earlier on about the fixed cameras, the 14.5 bid on that, is that per fixed camera? Or
Yes.
is that, okay.
That's per fixed camera, then it's $12.50 a month for the subscription fee per camera, which is $15,000 a year per camera.
Wow.
So your first year cost on a camera is going to be about $29,500.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, but I like the quickness that it's providing with the thefts that are going on and the vandalism and those. I've seen just a great response as far as being able to locate and identify the people that are doing that. I think it is a true crime deter. Like you said before, if they're dedicated to doing the crime, they're probably going to do it regardless of the cameras, but it's the people that are thinking about whether or not they're going to get caught. So I am highly in favor of this, and I think that we probably need to invest in even more. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Weber, is that?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I don't expect you to have these figures off the top of your head, and if you do, I'd be pretty impressed. And this isn't a conversation about the flock camera system. However, when we purchased that system, we didn't know like how effective it would be, but I know it's been incredibly effective in catching multiple stolen vehicles. Excuse me, even identifying a stolen motorcycle that had been stolen like 10 years ago somewhere else. So that system has proved to be incredibly effective, and I think that this system will do the same. To your point, that when that young man that walked through the parking lot that broke the window, it was able to identify the path of travel and who he was. You were able to identify him by that camera system, correct?
Correct. I mean,
And it helped solve that crime.
We actually identified him based upon the clothing that he had on that night, the day that the lieutenant and I seen him. He was wearing the same. We're driving down the road, and it's like, that was the guy from the video right there. He has the same clothes on. I mean,
So that's like a first-person account that you had with watching it and then actually catching the individual. And Vice Mayor Smith, I know there are concerns with the Big Brother aspect of this, but I think that, with the way, and I actually agree with you completely, because I'm not into the whole Big Brother, looking over my shoulder constantly. I can't cut down a tree in my yard if I don't want to type stuff, But what I do understand is that, we're in a advanced age and era of criminal behavior and conduct. And so I think we have a huge responsibility, and I don't think I'm not saying that you don't think that. I know you think this, that we have a huge obligation to protect our citizens and their property. So, and to the point about it being articulating, the first day that I was up, I walked into the parking lot, and I thought it would take a minute for it to watch me. It was immediate. The moment I walked into the parking lot, as soon as I looked at it, it turned and focused on me. And so the moment I hovered next, because I was standing right next to I was between two cars.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, I was impressed right there. So I fully support this.
Okay. We have Vice Mayor Smith.
Just quickly, again, it's how much of our privacy are we willing to sacrifice, for a safe community? And that's and there's where that tension lies. And then, so I just want to say to the community on Oroville that, if you don't like this, you need to come to a council meeting. You need to come and voice your concerns, why you're concerned, and engage in the discussion. I think this, in fact, I'm a little disappointed. I thought that certainly given some of the social media and again, the national conversation on this, I thought there'd probably be more input. So I encourage that. But at the same time, we do have a huge obligation, and I do appreciate the fact that you were the one that brought this up, this idea. And so, but I don't think we should ever stop discussing that balance and revisiting it. I mean, it's very important. And the moment that we feel like the cops got too much power, Chief, then we need to jerk the chain, right? But meanwhile, it's, tally ho, let's move forward. So, thank you.
Do we have any comment cards on this?
We do not on this item.
Ruth?
Yeah, I have a quick comment. I want to recommend a funding source because it's not stated in the staff report, but this sounds like a really good candidate for the district tax fund.
Sure.
I was going to recommend the capital asset replacement fund, but it doesn't sound like it's going to be our asset if we are truly going to lease it.
Okay.
If we were going to lease it and buy it at the end, then it could go in the capital asset replacement fund. But
Okay.
so a good candidate for the district tax fund.
So I would entertain a motion with her suggestion. Anyone?
Mr. Mayor, can I?
Sure, go ahead.
Real quickly, I'm sorry. And thank you for giving the credit to the idea, but it goes to the credit of all of us. It was an idea that was birthed in a moment, but you jumped on it, Brian jumped on it, the police department jumped on it, so it becomes a we thing.
Yep.
And Scott Thompson also jumped on it too, so anyway, so yeah, I appreciate everybody working on this.
Okay.
Oh, you know what, I said that without mic too, didn't I? Or did I have it on?
Yeah, you got it on. You gotta make the motion.
So, you gonna make the motion, Tracy? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Make the motion?
I
Yeah,
will
make a
make,
motion that we, go ahead. No, please.
make the motion. I make the motion.
Yeah.
What, Ruth?
The district tax fund.
Okay, I make a motion, what am I making a motion for?
To fund item number 3.
Item number 3.
As presented
As presented
to Ruth's
to Ruth's
suggestion.
suggestion.
I second that.
Call roll, please.
Motion passes with 7 yeses.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council.
appreciate that. Item number 4 is employment agreement with Jess Darnell, Assistant Chief.
Yes, and I want to let you all know Jess had every intent on being here this evening. He is sick and
Under
very,
the
very
weather.
disappointed he's not here. So I
Yes.
just want you to assure you that he definitely wanted to be here and was very disappointed. So, but with that said, the item before you is a employment agreement with Jess Darnell to be the Assistant Chief of Police. We did interviews back in November, and Mr. Darnell was selected as the most qualified candidate. Darnell is currently working for the Oroville Police Department as a detective, and has other law enforcement experience from working in Tehama County. Prior to beginning his career in law enforcement, Jess worked for served for the United States Marine Corps, ultimately attaining the rank of captain. This contract has a starting salary of $129,022 per year for a term of 3 years and would start January 8th, 2024.
Excellent.
I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 9209.
Kayla, do we have any speaker cards in this?
We do not on this item.
What's my motion?
Motion second, call roll.
Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 5, employment agreement amendment with Ruth Duncan.
All right, yes, the next two items are somewhat routine in nature, but as a department heads advance and perform successfully here within the city, and they advance through a salary schedule just like many of our other employees. So this is an amendment to the agreement with Ruth Duncan, advancing her from step G to step H, which would be at $175,100 effective January 8th, 2024. All other terms of the agreement would remain the same.
Excellent.
Excellent. Councilman Thompson.
I just want to say, Ruth, you're amazing.
Yeah.
We are lucky to have you.
We are.
And so I am absolutely grateful that you work for our city.
You're here.
Okay, is that a motion I can include there?
I would definitely recommend a motion.
Okay. Motion second for item number
Second.
5 on the agenda. Call
And
roll,
I
please.
consider us blessed.
Yes, very much.
Blessed.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, item number 6, employment agreement with, amendment with Ron Belser.
Okay, very similar here. We amendment to the agreement for Mr. Belser, Code Enforcement Director, moving from step C to step E at $150,123 effective January 8th, 2024. All other terms remain the same.
Any comment cards?
Thompson.
Oh, Councilman Thompson, excuse me.
I'd say the same thing.
Okay.
No, give him a special speech.
I say that he's a rock star. I tell him that he's a rock star.
You are a rock star.
There's a lot of
Debris.
Stuff.
so much.
Stuff.
He's
Yes.
taken a skeleton, basically developed a whole
Yes,
a
he did.
whole arm that is just kicking butt in our city. And so, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Again,
Well said.
Oh.
you're what makes people say the city's turning around in a good way. Like, yeah, we have some amazing staff members, and I think of people like you. Well, actually, a lot of our staff, but
Yeah.
you definitely come to mind. So grateful that you're here.
think
Ditto.
we can all
Councilman,
ditto
oh,
that.
Vice Mayor Smith is on cue.
Yeah, and just to add to that, one of the things I think that every one of us appreciate, at least I can
I
speak
do.
for myself, is well, just the level of communication. That volumes, in fact, it's like all the, so you send us all the pictures and all the dialogue, keep us really up to date with what's going on in your department. Head and shoulders, just, so a rock star. I don't know, I wish there was a better word for it, but,
Yes.
you're deeply appreciated. And
There
just thank you
is.
for all that effort. It just, it goes to a long way to helping us feel like, we have a good sense of what's happening in our city, which is important. We have that connectivity, and that you provide that as just an invaluable service, so thank you.
Can I add just one tiny thing to what he said? Was that, there wasn't too long ago, a community citizen had unfounded complaints about things not being done, and I was like, excuse me? You listen. But then I had a whole army of stuff I could just, give them until they were punch, drunk with information and be like, okay, you see this, you see this, you see this. And so they, it was like, oh, wow, okay, never mind. Because people have perceptions and they don't actually, like you said, they may see an area clean under a tree and just think it was clean. It's like, no, that was filthy the day before. And then
Right.
and you guys do more than just clean up the city. I mean, just the aspects of abatement and blight and cars and people that are doing nefarious things. I mean, it takes everything, and yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Weber is the last here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and I'm kind of going over the same old territory here, but really, I wasn't here when you were hired, but knowing the past and knowing what code enforcement was back in the day, I actually applied for code enforcement years ago and didn't get the job. But the probably rightfully so at that time too. But I wasn't too interested in enforcing codes. So, anyway, you've taken your department, which was like a fledgling thing, and you've turned it into like a juggernaut. And so we are blessed to have you as a city for sure. So thank you very much.
All right. Do I have any comment cards?
None on this item.
All right, entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt resolution number 9211.
Second.
Motion second, call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, item 6 is now passed.
Was you going to say anything?
I just want to say
Oh.
thank you, and a lot of the progress and the success, it comes with everybody. It comes with the council, it comes with the police department, Public Works, it's everybody that makes that work. We all have to believe in a common goal and the love for the city of Oroville.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Item number 7, council compensation, Senate Bill 329.
Yes, this item was requested, we talked about it at the last council meeting to bring it forward and talk about Senate Bill 329 and the impacts it has on the city. So real briefly, I'll give some background on how city council compensation is set here in the city of Oroville. So currently the city the council compensation actually has been set by charter for years, and then there also is a additional stipend that council members receive, and that's set by the citywide salary schedule. So that's how the structure is set here now. Senate Bill 329, now this is designed, it's signed into law, but it's designed for general law cities. It changes the compensation limits for that are defined in the government code, and the government code defines the compensation limits for municipalities based upon population. So for example, for jurisdictions that are up to 35,000 in population, the compensation limit is going up to $950 per month. In addition to that, it provides an avenue where if a jurisdiction were to set it at $950 per month, then annually that jurisdiction could pass another ordinance or amend an ordinance to increase it based upon the CPI between 5 and 10%, depending on the CPI again. But that could also be provided. If the city council were to do any sort of increases, any said increase would not be eligible to be effective until January of 2025, until there's an additional election. The staff report did provide also some information on what some of our comparable jurisdictions are at right now. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about how the Senate bill impacts the charter impacts. Happy to follow up with any answers to any questions you may have.
Any comment cards on this?
None on this item.
Okay. Council members. Oh, I'm sorry, Thompson. I didn't see it. Excuse me, wasn't looking.
No worries. I think the compensation for council members is fine. But I will say that I've said for a while, and I still think that the compensation for the mayor needs to be increased. I think that whoever is in that seat, the citizens expect the mayor to be at a lot of events, and it's great to see the mayor at a lot of events, and the mayor is at a lot of events. And so the proportion of the mayor being at and representing the city, I think needs to be reflected in the compensation. So I would actually recommend for the mayor to have a compensation that would be almost like a part-time salary, because really, for what I think the city of Oroville needs, I mean, we are blessed to have a mayor that has time to put into it, but I think that the expectation of what the mayor, whether it be Mayor Pittman or a previous mayor or a new mayor, puts into investment into our city and what the citizens expect. I think there needs to be a compensation that would meet that expectation and help them to be more free to invest. And, with the city growing and being that it is, there's a lot more stuff that's involved with that. So that's my recommendation. I think that needs to be looked into for our community and for there. Because like I said, if there's an event, I think the mayor needs to be there. So with that expectation.
Yeah, I can say this with regards to how the Senate bill impacts that. Again, without taking something to the voters, the council can adopt something up to $950. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking as well, but up to $950 per month. If there was a desire to even go above and beyond that, then that would take an act of the voters. I'm fairly certain.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Just
to speak my own right now, I would be fully willing to vote for the $950 for the mayor. I would vote for that for tonight. I think that the mayor attends a lot of events. I think that the citizens expect to attend a lot of events. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, whether it be ribbon cuttings or
There is.
Arbor Day events that are coming up or different things that are going on, and the mayor is there. I think that he should be rightly at least somewhat compensated for that expectation.
Councilman Goodson is on the queue.
So I'm in favor of, if you do for one, you do for all. And I believe that there is not a person on this council that does not go above and beyond. We are all assigned on committees. We have to absorb mass amounts of information in order to become informed and vet our decisions. We're always working with, emailing, texting. We are all different sorts of media in order to address our constituents. We do research. We connect with our city staff. There is a lot. And so my second point is that often we get the same people that run for these seats. Many are retired, they have great salaries. In order to get fresh perspectives, a diversity of cultures, we need to up the fee schedule. And so those are my two thoughts on that.
Vice Mayor Smith is next. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate all the comments. I think it's just important to add with the responsibility and all the various committees, which obviously we had that discussion earlier, that there is an inordinate amount of time. If you're being responsible to the seat that you hold, and often I don't think the public is completely aware of, that for some, you have to take off time from work. I know Councilwoman Riggs, and I'm sure John Stone as well, and they're both, gainfully employed. They're what's that? And
I mean, excuse me. Yes, we do.
Well, anyway, I'll get in trouble if I make that comment. I'm reserved. But anyway, I just think that it's important that the public, because the moment you talk about, increasing our own, you're giving your, and that gets controversial and people start making a lot of comments to that effect. But I think it is important that the public is fully aware of the sacrifice that is involved without compensation. You got to drive, some of these meetings are up in Chico or in other locations, and you're taking 4 or 5 hours off work. There are real costs. So when you think about the compensation that we do receive, there are times when it does not cover the cost of sitting in the seat. When you talk about time off work, right? And I'm sure some of you other council folks can speak to that. So, again, I'm fully in agreement with this. I know it's going to be discussed, and it should be. And that we should all have our feet held to the fire as to doing our job and doing our due diligence and sitting on those committees and making sure that we're informed on the topics and that we're putting our best foot forward and putting our constituents always at the top of the, our consideration. That's why we're here. But I think that it is, the cost just driving across town now, at the cost of gas, there's a huge expense. And so, and some of us, depending on where we are in our life, are more able to absorb that than others. So that's my 2 cents.
Councilman Weber is next on the queue.
Yes, thank you. So I will be the dissenting opinion on this, and I have zero problem being that. I think we have a fantastic benefits package that is worth a ton of money, and that when I ran, I didn't even know we had benefits. I learned after I won that we had benefits. So I don't, I'm happy with what we get. I think that, I agree with the council member Goodson, though. I think that, I think if it were to happen, it should be all of us, but I don't want to raise. I don't want nothing. I've heard it be said by somebody that I bought the ticket, so I'm going to ride the ride. I knew what I was getting into. I knew it was going to be a huge amount of time and commitment and energy and dedication, and frankly, it was going to cost money. The little stipend that we get pays my Harley payment, if you want to know the truth, and I'm perfectly happy with that because I love going on rides on my Harley with my kids. So I'm totally opposed to this. So if you guys want to bring it as an item, I'll and you guys can do whatever you want to do, but I'm going to vote no. So I'll just say right now.
Councilman Riggs?
Thanks. I have a few things to say. The first is that I would be in favor of raising it, and that I am not running again, so it has no implication for me. And if you do the math, I estimate that I spend around 8 to 10 hours a week on council things. I could never quantify. I might cry. Oh, God. I could never quantify the emotional impact that this role has or social impact that this role has. But if we go by 8 to 10 hours per week, it's less than what you will make at McDonald's. It's about $12 to $15 an hour.
Yes.
And the level of responsibility that I take, and I know that all of you take for this, to me is worth more than that. So I am in favor of raising it across the board. However, and I've only spoken to staff about this, I haven't spoken to any of you guys about it. One of the concerns that I have is that there are some council member committee appointments that are paid. And that becomes a topic, an icky, well, because it's SCORE, it's an icky topic already, but amongst council and in the public, it becomes icky because it's like, oh, you only want to be on SCORE because you get, I don't know, I think it's like $600.
$600.
So I feel that if it's a committee appointment from the council, that we should have a safety net in place where that money doesn't go to the council members who serve on that committee, because that's required of us. And instead, it goes to a council fund or is returned back to the jurisdiction that's paying it. Because we are elected, we're here to serve, and I think that that added incentive to serve on committees that somebody has to serve on isn't quite fair, and it puts us in a difficult position. Sorry that I called score icky again.
Councilman Johnstone's next.
Thank you. So I'm not necessarily opposed to raising it. I would think because it wouldn't even take effect until 2025 anyway,
Right.
that maybe we could ponder and take a look at maybe the budget when the budget comes back out and see if it's something that we could even fit into the budget. You know, we're working on so many different things right now with making sure that our city is moving forward. That's what we were elected to do. That's what I like to focus on. I'm not opposed to raising the compensation or the stipend or whatever you want to call it, but I would really like to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our constituents and and the dreams and goals of our city first, making sure that that's all put in place. And then if the budget would allow or has funding for that, since we're not going to be taking effect for a year anyway, maybe we can reevaluate and relook at it again after the budget, this year's budget. Thank you.
All right. I got myself on the queue. My comments are, it's been pretty much the amount we're talking about for quite a long time. I've served, this is my third term on council, I think. There are costs that do come about, and I appreciate Councilman Thompson's job as the mayor. It does involve a lot of time, more time than I expected, to tell you the truth, and I knew what the job I was getting into. But at the same time, as I would perform these tasks, I also have a great crew up here that I'd love to delegate to, because I can't be to everything. So you council members, you're going to get calls, and you've already filled in many times for me, so I certainly appreciate that. So in that light, I certainly wouldn't want to not increase that stipend for the council members at the same time, because as you say, there's a lot of things going on, and any person in this seat can't possibly get to them all. So you all do represent the city in every fashion that we mean to. So I have no problem with what Councilman Johnstone's suggestion is, but I'd even throw it out there. My personal opinion is, I would just like to see us throw the idea of $200 for each of the stipends that we have, $200 for the mayor's one and $200 for the council members, and just throw that out for us to relook at when we start the budget discussion. And I'm throwing that number out there because I don't think it should go to the $950. I'm not a believer in that, just because the state says so. And part of this discussion is being brought by the city of Chico and their activities, which I'm not asking to go down that path at all, but it is something noteworthy, and I certainly would want to see anyone run for this office so that they know that their out-of-pockets at least will at least be covered on the minimum stuff. And right now, as Councilman Vice Mayor Smith says, it's just the fuel cost of getting all the meetings. I mean, that does burn it up, and it, although coming down a little bit, it does consume time and effort. So that's my take on it. I'll throw out that number 200 for each and go down the path, and we'll come back and look at it later unless someone's got a better idea. You'll motion.
Yeah, motion.
But do we need a motion, or can we just get a consensus?
Okay, just a consensus for the
No,
additional
just-
$200.
No, I think I really like that idea. Like
Yeah.
budget season basically is if it's not
Coming upon
here, it's right around the corner.
Boy, she ducked real quick, didn't she?
It is here, and so absolutely that makes
Okay.
sense.
It has to be done by ordinance too, so it can't,
Right.
nothing can be done tonight anyway. It has to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I throw that number out as a topic. Okay. Vice Mayor Smith, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I probably reserve my comments for future agenda items, but this touches on it and touches a bit on what Councilwoman Riggs was commenting about a couple of those committees where there's, $600 for a meeting. And it's just dealing with sewage. And some of the other committees are really, there's a lot of heavy stuff, like a COC meeting,
COC
right?
is a
There's
lot.
a lot going on in that. Not to say that, not to diminish the importance of our sewage, but it is a pretty hefty compensation or stipend, and it does create some weird kind of tension from time to time. And I think we, just to have you make that comment and let it go, I agree with you that it potentially creates some unnecessary dynamics with us. And then to that, I want to hold that thought because I also want to bring up when you get to that, before a future agenda item. It's kind of in the same genre.
Right. So we have consensus on that, and we're moving now to public communication hearing and non-agenda items again.
Yes, we do have one submitted speaker card for this,
Okay.
Pete Gibson. And I do have a handout I'll be providing to each of you.
It's turned on already, or?
It is on, yes.
Good evening, my name is Pete Gibson. First, I wanted to apologize for two things. The disruption of my phone to Connor, great presentation, by the way. And second, for not having enough flyers for you. My name is Pete Gibson. On behalf of the Oroville Hope Center board member, I wanted to thank you guys for what you have done in the past. It's nice to put a face to the name, Mr. Bell, with the City Works, now City Streets program. It is Hope Center is involved in. It's been a number of years since I've been in front of the city council, and I am encouraged by what I have heard tonight, and I'm very appreciative of what you guys have done. So I'm here for three reasons for the Hope Center. Publicly, thank you for the support that you guys have given us in the past and ongoing. Not only us, but the other organizations, Jordan's Crossing. It's been encouraging and a blessing for the city council to have your backing for the Hope Center. So that's the first one. The second one is I wanted to invite you as a partnership for an upcoming fundraiser we have planned February 17th at the State Theater. We are bringing back Kevin Marcy and Kristen Brown. They performed a concert for us in September of 22 at the State Theater. We had another artist, Brandon Davis. Kevin Marcy, you may know, is a kind of a local guy with the Marcy Brothers. Kristen Brown is from Roseville, recently seen on The Voice this last season. And unfortunately, they didn't show up, but she sang the national anthem on Christmas Day for the San Francisco game, which was pretty neat. They're both excited about coming back. And then a third person who is performing is Elia Nicholson, who is actually a student of Kristen and also the daughter of Leslie Nicholson and John, the owners of Oroville Cycle. And the third reason is to invite you to the event. It'll be $10, again, State Theater, February 17th. It's a family event. We want to try to make it reasonable so everybody can come. In the community now, or money is harder and harder to come by with gas, homeowners insurance, that type of thing. So in conclusion, thank you for the consideration. Thank you for what you guys are doing in the community. I greatly appreciate what you're doing. I've been here 25 years. I've always believed Oroville has great potential. And from what I have seen from all of you, I'm very encouraged and very grateful that you are serving our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions?
No?
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
That's all I
Actually,
have.
where's the sale of tickets happening? I didn't see.
Currently, they're online.
Okay.
Oroville Cycle, she volunteered. There are a couple other people that I wanted to talk to about partnerships and also possibly being locations, but I haven't firmed anything up
Okay.
as of this point.
Good, thank you. All right. Any other non-agenda items? Looking around the room? No more cards? All right, next item is future agenda items from council.
Yes, Gateway Project, update.
That's a good
of movement. Oh, thank you.
If I can provide a little bit of an update, we met recently. We're gonna.
Oh, we'd like to hear from Mr. Mike. Yes.
So a group of us met. We're going to be sending a letter out to request a formal update. It should be going
Okay.
out here within a week. So if I may send that out, and
Yes, thank you.
I made numerous attempts to get one via other methods. So we're going to be sending a letter out, and we'll have something for you shortly.
Was there a recent presentation to the DRB board?
Pardon me, Mr.
Yeah.
Mayor, I think it was planning commission. Was
Was
it?
it the planning commission? Did,
DRC.
DRC, yeah, the DRC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't they do one at planning?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
DRC is
Yeah,
what,
there was.
just get an update on that presentation.
Please forgive me, I apologize.
Yeah, oh, no worries, I'm just, any correspondence? We do have a letter from PG&E, and guess what, they're requesting a rate increase. As if we didn't.
That's
No.
news.
Yeah, that's news. All right, without any other comments, no other
agenda
observations, I will
Wait,
call.
we got.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Vice Mayor Smith.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting to look down there. Go ahead.
So as far as a future agenda item, I would like us to revisit the policy to committee appointments. I mean, what a difference a year makes. This was a pretty amazing process tonight, and so I'm very appreciative of that. But last year, not so much, right? We all remember that. It was a little tough. And the end result of last year was that we did not have representation on committees, because remember, it took us a little time to get that across the line. So I'd like us to look at that policy to perhaps, if we can't get a consensus, no disrespect to the mayor, but if we can't, then the seats that are appointed just remain in force until we can, so we don't have a lack of, because it's embarrassing, or a little bit, actually, for the city to, then you have people sitting on committees, and then now they're not technically because of the way our code reads. And then, so now we can't represent our community appropriately while we sort out our indifferences. And so to preclude that, I think that would be a good visit.
Councilman Weber's up.
Would the council desire me to bring that back with some proposed language of the mindset that just, if appointments are not immediately made, they will continue? I could draft some language and bring it back for consideration. I know the council did adopt a policy back in
It was a couple years ago.
Couple years ago.
Yeah,
Right,
we'll
right.
come back, revisit it. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilman Weber's up.
Yeah, thank you. So future agenda item, as we roll into this year. Last year, we had our community enhancement fund that we funded for $20,000 and we used a large portion of that to do the fireworks. And so I would like to start working on funding that now, but instead of funding at 20,000, I would like to look at maybe 45,000 with, what'd you say, 60? Oh, 100,000? So, but I would like to fund it for, at a minimum of 45,000 so we could, if it's the council's will, because the Rotary is not going to take on the fireworks again. They're fixated and focused on the bridge, which I think is a great project, and they should focus on that. So it's probably going to more than likely fall back on us to do some fireworks. So I would like to see 20,000 be front-loaded into the fireworks account, and then give Vice Mayor Smith, if it's his will to do this again at the chamber, opportunity to have fundraising opportunity leading up, so we have a really fantastic fireworks display. Plus, the balance of the community enhancement fund, I would then like to have on deck to enhance other events in town. For instance, if somebody has an award for something that goes on.
Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, exactly. Something, anything like that. So we could enhance it, or we could, basically, it's an investment fund at that point, right? To invest back into the community, invest into the ideas, invest into whether it be Salmon Festival, Feather Fiesta Days, Martin Luther King Day, however we could help if somebody, because with rising insurance cost, all too well, that just to insure an event is ridiculous. So maybe we could help out, or for instance, another one would be Pee Wee and his fly-in.
I was just.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's okay.
Councilmember Johnstone, yeah. But Pee Wee comes out of pocket for that fly-in, so maybe we could help offset some of that cost in some manner. So I would like to see that as a future agenda item. And then secondly, I got something I'd like to read, but would you like me to wait for after agenda items?
No, we'll, go ahead.
Go
I just
ahead.
want to
I'll let you, go
I
ahead.
just want to add just a small thing because I think I'm the last one in the queue to the
Is that regarding this? I have a question
Yes.
on that one. Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the front loading, I think it's great. We talked last year, and I think it'd be good idea to, instead of just throwing money into it, but to incentivize the community to give by doing matching donation.
That's what there's actually language that
Yeah.
you all agreed to that.
Right, matching donation.
So I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, people, they know that if they give $100, their $100 turns into $200. That way it creates that cohesive partnership between the public and private sector.
And it's an
Yeah.
And
investment on
correct me,
both sides.
sorry, please forgive me. I'm
On the
sorry.
same topic, I'd like to add another venture that the pyrotechnics groups are now going into these drone displays. And maybe if Vice Mayor Smith is interested, maybe we do a drone display over the river downtown instead of fireworks at the airport. That might bring us a lot more folks in our downtown area and let you explore that process. Because I know the vendors are supplying that, if you get what I'm thinking about. And it'd probably be a lot less insurance and a lot less things, because you don't have to deal with the pyrotechnics. I'd throw that out there as a future agenda item.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just really for the whole community's benefit, you could have a huge show on the levee, 4th of July. We'd be the only town in the area doing it, so
It's a good idea.
just an idea to throw out there.
Definitely worth exploring, for sure.
So I would ask him if he's willing to explore that and bring it back to us.
Now,
Yeah. I was just gonna say, it's gonna take quite a bit, yeah, it's gonna take a few more peanuts than what we're raising
Right,
now
I
to
agree
do that, yeah.
but at the same time.
Looked at that, so.
It's a lot safer. It also opens up the new door to the technologies that are available.
And it's a better tourism attraction.
I would
Yes,
agree with that.
downtown
with
versus, you could fill up downtown, I'm gonna imagine a 4th of July. Somebody'd have
80
to
grand.
eat dinner somewhere, I would imagine, huh?
I looked into
It
it.
would be great
Now-
for the river.
Please forgive me. Now, last year, did we ratify some of the language? Am I wrong in saying that? Because we were, Vice Mayor Smith, were they slow in investing into the idea of match, or did we front load it first and then they?
I think it was half and half or partial.
Half and
Is
half.
that what we did? Okay, because I can't
Half and
remember.
half, yeah.
So we'd follow the same model basically if
Right.
we did it. Okay,
Right.
all right.
And we did, I believe, and I'm gonna look at Ruth, I believe we budgeted 20,000 in this year's budget for that, yep.
So step one, find out what it costs, and step two, we'll go from there, see. Because personally, I think that has a whole lot of energy that we can develop downtown. And we've moved the fireworks all over the place. We've had them on the dam, we've had it at the forebay, we've had it at the after bay, and the airport is just unique because we can reduce the fire hazard. But with drones, you don't have a fire hazard, so it's an idea.
So
They're quieter too, I think.
It would, yeah, the dogs wouldn't be riping at us like they did over the last night.
It wouldn't be the same howl, so.
No. Councilman Goodson?
Yes, Vice, you had mentioned coming back with the cost. And Vice Mayor Smith has an estimate of what that would look like.
Yeah, because I actually
Can
looked,
you-
I
can you
actually looked
share
at
that?
that with that concept, like the bridge or something like that. It's probably 60 to 80 grand for a drone show.
Oh,
But,
see.
I mean, I'll look into it.
If we,
It's gonna come
now's a
down.
good time to do it because January is the time you start talking about it. And if we get on their schedule before then, we might get a good rate. I mean, there's all kinds of possibilities there.
Yes, absolutely, Mr. Mayor. That's exactly why I was thinking we should start working on this now, so we're not playing catch up, because last year we kind of were.
Yeah.
It was a
Behind the-
last
behind-
minute thing last
Yeah,
year.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then I got something I'd like to read if you guys don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
Is it a song?
I took, oftentimes I sit over here and I write all these notes and then I journal too. So I actually, this is something I actually wrote the other day, and I just wanted to take, because it was just like an appreciation for what's going on in our city. So this only should take a few minutes at most. So I appreciate the opportunity. And as, I'm just going to start off by thanking everybody in this room again. What an incredible experience this has been to be here. What an incredible year this has been, and what an honor it is to serve on the Oroville City Council and work for the great citizens of this beautiful city. It's hard to believe that it's already been 1 year. We have made leaps and bounds and improvements at the city. We have hired new personnel. and purchased new equipment. Our city administrator, our public works department head, and community department head we hired are on fire with a great vision for Oroville, a vision that we have communicated at this dais. And not only them as our new hires, but our seasoned vets as well, and in various department head roles are absolutely killing it. And I couldn't be more proud of all of you. All of our city employees are fantastic because it takes every one of us to make this thing work. We've implemented a great paving plan that we're going to really see go into effect. I know Fred is really working on that, and he's eager to get his paving plan going. With this council adopted that, and we're going to see it in full effect in '24. As we go into the new year, we will see great enhancements with our infrastructure maintenance. We will see our public works doing great work with the streets and the parks. We will see community development, making connections. We will see a thriving and better staffed police department. I'm excited to see the addition of Jess Darnell as our assistant chief, working side by side with Chief Lagrone to continue building our police department. I'm very proud of our men and women in blue. We will continue to see a thriving fire department, and we will see a city hall that rolls out the red carpet for our constituents, a planning department that works hard for our people. If there's anything I could take away from this last year, it's this, that nothing is impossible, that together we can, that if we can lay aside our differences and focus on our commonality, then together we can build a healthy, thriving, and vibrant Oroville for not only this generation, but many generations to come. As we go into 2024, I want to encourage us to look for the opportunities to build, to network, to apply our individual talents, to pour into our community. We all know it's going to be election season this year, so as divisive as the election season will probably get, I want to encourage us not to get caught up in the divisive rhetoric in both the national conversation or even the local conversation. Resist the urge to do like everyone else. Dare to be a voice of reason. Dare to be a voice that unifies. Dare to be the one who goes against the status quo. Dare to say I love you even if you vote different than me. Dare to fight the narrative that either the left or the right is bad, but rather embrace the idea that divisive rhetoric is bad. Fear is nothing but a mechanism of control. The scared, weak, and narrow-minded will try and control you through fear and psychological manipulations. Measure how you respond to things spoken to you by measuring the words you take in and measuring your response to those words. If someone is sensational and trying to pump you up, then take a pause and examine the motivation of the individual speaking to you. Ask yourself if it is for the building up or the tearing down. If it is build up, embrace it, but if it's to tear down, flat out reject it. Follow those who do not speak fear into you. Follow those that speak hope and unity. Follow those who dare. Realize this, that a divided people are an easily controlled people, and a united people are an unstoppable people. Together we are more than overcomers. Together we are stronger. Together we are Oroville. Together we will set the gold standard because we are Oroville. So I'm super excited for what 2024 represents, the opportunities, what we can do, all of us working together, and collectively, I think we're going to have a really good year. So let's focus on the prize and march toward it. I'm really appreciative of every person here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that being said, folks, I'll adjourn the meeting to the regular meeting will be held on January 16th at 4 o'clock.